Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Tomorrow is the clan martial meet. That night, Duan Ling Tian's house had an unexpected guest. Looking at the youth, Li Shir lightly grit her teeth as she said in a low voice, "Thank you for gifting this sword skill to me. If you hadn't, I wouldn't have 100% confidence to enter the top 10 in the clan martial meet." Top 10 in the clan martial meet? Looks like your synchronous shadow sword has been cultivated to the initial stage. The youth was slightly shocked of Li Shir's ambition. Although Li Shir's strength placed her at the top 3 in the outer court, the top 10 of the clan martial meet would require competing with many inner court disciples. Wanting to enter the top 10 was no easy matter. Yes. Li Shir lightly nodded. If you really want to thank someone, then thank Ku-Er. It was because of her that I gave you that sword skill. If there's nothing else, then I'll be returning to my room to cultivate. Shrugging his shoulders, the youth turned around and returned to his room. Glancing at the youth's back, Li Shir's gaze became complicated and she sighed faintly. Big sister Shir, where's the young master? An elegant and refined young girl entered the courtyard. He's returned to his room to cultivate. Little sister Ku-Er, it's time for me to leave as well. Thank you. If it wasn't for you, Duan Ling Tian wouldn't have taught me this synchronous shadow sword. Li Shir forced out a laugh before turning around and leaving. Big sister Shir. The young girl noticed that something was wrong with Li Shir. Li Ro had walked out of her room at an unknown time, shaking her head as she sighed while looked at Li Shir's disappearing figure. As an experienced person, she naturally was able to discern Li Shir's thoughts. At the crack of dawn the next day, Duan Ling Tian and Ku-Er arrived at the inner court martial arts practice field. The clan martial meet would be held here. At a corner of the inner court martial arts practice field stood 30 combat arenas. The 30 combat arenas were in a circle. In the middle stood a high platform with seats laid on it. In front of the combat arena, a stream of people flowed. Along with the appearance of 3 aged chief judges, the noisy martial arts practice field became quiet. These 3 chief judges were all Li clan elders in charge of presiding over the clan martial meet. Behind these 3 chief judges were 30 more judges. Nearly all of them were young adults. The 3 chief judges were led by an old man with white eyebrows. Duan Ling Tian noticed an extremely dangerous aura emitting from the white-eyebrowed old man. Duan Ling Tian understood that this person was definitely a powerhouse, strong enough to slap the current him to death with a single stroke. As the lead chief judge, I'll introduce the rules for today's clan martial meet. 242 outer court disciples will be divided into 30 groups based on the number cards in their hands. Besides the first group having 10 people, the rest will only have 8. The 30 groups will each determine an arena master. As for the specific rules, the judges will let you all know. Of course, if you think your luck is bad and was divided into a strong group, you'll all have a chance later to challenge any one of the 30 arena masters. As long as you win, you will be the new arena master. When no one is left to initiate a challenge, the 30 arena masters will become inner court disciples. After the lead chief judge finished, the 30 judges started to divide the outer court disciples into groups. Duan Ling Tian and Ku-Er were divided into the same group. These rules aren't too bad. They guarantee absolute fairness. Duan Ling Tian indifferently smiled. Duan Ling Tian was number 77 and Ku-Er was number 78. They were placed in the 10th group. The 10th group had a total of 8 people. Out of the other 6, 2 of them recognized Duan Ling Tian. Earlier, when Duan Ling Tian defeated the Lin clan outer court's top disciple, Lin Qi, they saw it with their own 2 eyes. Meeting Duan Ling Tian here, the 2 of them took the initiative and admitted defeat. Out of the other 4, none of them could withstand a single move from Duan Ling Tian. As for Ku-Er, her opponents wouldn't even have the chance to attack before her violet meteorite flexible sword had already descended upon their throats, causing her opponents to feel a chill run down their spines. Even the judges were speechless. The 10th group actually had 2 little freaks. In the end, it was up to Ku-Er and Duan Ling Tian to determine the arena master of the 10th group. Gazes from the surrounding combat arenas descended on the 2 of them. on the central high platform. The two of them look unfamiliar. Are they branch family disciples? One of the chief judges was slightly shocked. They are precisely branch family disciples. Both of them are from the Fresh Breeze Town branch family, and they are both disciples with another surname. The youth among the two of them even defeated the Lin clan's Lin Chi a while ago in the trade market. Another chief judge lightly smiled. Lin Chi, the Lin clan's patriarch's youngest son? The top disciple in the Lin clan's outer court, with a strength comparable to our Li clan outer court's top disciple, Li Kuang. The former chief judge was visibly moved. You're right, it was him. The latter chief judge nodded. A branch family disciple, and even a disciple with another surname. Such a pity. The formed sighed. Humph. Branch family disciple, disciple with another surname. So what? As long as they don't betray our clan, then they are members of our Li clan. The white-eyebrowed old man grunted. Hearing this, the other two chief judged immediately went silent. Standing on the 10th combat arena, Duan Ling Tian indifferently said, I admit defeat. This caused everyone, including the judges, to be disappointed. But Duan Ling Tian and Ku Er were together after all. Although they were disappointed, they weren't shocked. Ku Er became the arena master for the 10th combat arena. After some time, an arena master appeared on each of the 30 combat arenas. Besides Ku Er, Duan Ling Tian recognized another 3 of these arena masters: Li Shi, Li Yuan, and Li Xiao. The 3 chief judges in the central high platform that was surrounded by the 30 combat arenas stood up. The white-eyebrowed old man had an unchanging expression as he indifferently said, Now, those outer court disciples who failed to be chosen in their own group and are unwilling will now have a chance to challenge the other arena masters. If they win, they will become the new arena master. If they lose, they will lose the chance to become an inner court disciple. Immediately, noise erupted beneath the 30 combat arenas. After all, they only had one chance to challenge. They needed to spend some time to judge the strength of each of the arena masters before initiating a challenge. Whoosh! Quickly, a figure flew up onto the 15th group's combat arena, attracting the gazes of everyone. It's Duan Ling Tian. Many outer court disciples recognized the figure. Duan Ling Tian? The outer court disciple that defeated the Lin clan's outer court top disciple, Lin Chi, in the trade market. You're right, it's him. With his strength, he could probably rival Li Kuang. How could he have been eliminated? Don't tell me he was eliminated by Li Kuang? No, he gave the 10th group's arena master position to the young girl who never leaves his side, that young girl over there. So beautiful, even slightly more beautiful than the former top beauty of the outer court, Li Shi. Since ancient times, heroes love beautiful women. No wonder he forfeited. On the 15th combat arena, Li Zhao's expression was gloomy. He didn't expect Duan Ling Tian to actually come challenge him. As far as he was concerned, Duan Ling Tian's decision was on purpose. Duan Ling Tian. Outside the combat arena, Li Zhong's eyes emitted a fierce light. Although he always looked down upon Li Xiao, no matter what, Li Xiao was his younger brother. This was an unchangeable fact. I admit defeat. Under everyone's gazes, Li Xiao took the initiative and admitted defeat. Even though the surroundings sounded with boos and caused his face to flush with shame, he still gritted his teeth and endured. By admitting defeat now, he would be able to conserve his full strength to battle another arena master. If he was defeated by Duan Ling Tian and Duan Ling Tian slightly attacks harder on purpose, once he gets injured, he would lose any chance of becoming an inner court disciple. Duan Ling Tian, in 3 days, I will properly teach you a lesson. Li Zhong coldly glanced at Duan Ling Tian before walking to another combat arena with Li Xiao, helping Li Xiao to find an opponent. Duan Ling Tian's eyes slightly narrowed before closing and resting his mind. The arena master challenges progressed like a raging fire. No one challenged Li Kuang, Li Yuan, and Li Shi because these were the top 3 of the outer court. After forcing Li Xiao to admit defeat, no one came to challenge Duan Ling Tian either. Ku Er, on the other hand, had 3 people who one after the other challenged her. However, Her violet meteorite flexible sword would always descend on the opponent's throat at the first possible moment, causing her opponent to be unable to move. This young girl is similar to Duanling Tian. They are both freaks. I have a feeling that she might be even stronger than Li Shishir. Yeah, in front of her, no matter if it's appearance or strength, Li Shishir is slightly inferior. The outer court disciples discussed with each other. Some of the inner court disciples who came to join in the fun were also slightly astonished as they took an extra glance at the young girl. Brethren, this little girl is really not bad. From today onwards, our inner court will have another female disciple whose appearance and natural talent is be able to rival Li Fei's, an inner court disciple said to the youth beside him. Li Fei, the top beauty in the inner court. The youth had a gray shirt with silver lining. His piercing gaze descended on the young girl and emitted a trace of greed and dominance. It's Leon. It really is him. When the surrounding outer court disciples recognized the gray-clothed youth, they were unable to keep themselves from exclaiming, Leon, a famous inner court disciple of the Li clan. 1 year ago, when Leon was 17 and with his cultivation at the 9th level of the body tempering stage, he participated in the clan martial meet and entered the top 10. His final placing was 6th, merely inferior to 4 18-year-old core formation stage youths and 1 more 9th level body tempering youth of the same age. Now, among the inner court disciples under the age of 19, his strength was publicly acknowledged as number 2. As dusk, the clan martial meet came to an end. After admitting defeat in front of Duanling Tian, Li Xiao successfully challenged another arena master. The 30 arena masters advanced to become inner court disciples. For a moment, many people shook their heads and sighed, and many more felt dejected. Among them, some were already 18. Since they couldn't become inner court disciples this time, it meant they would forever lose the chance to become inner court disciples. If they were branch family disciples, they would be sent back to their respective branch families. Duanling Tian and Ku Er walked shoulder to shoulder. Ku Er held onto his arm. Her face had a smile of happiness. Many gazes of jealousy and envy descended upon Duanling Tian. Suddenly, Duanling Tian frowned. Looking forward, at an empty space that had been opened up by the crowd, stood 2 youths around the age of 18. The youth with gray clothes that stood in front looked at him with a gaze filled with enmity. Duanling Tian couldn't understand why someone who he didn't even recognize would look at him with such a gaze. When he noticed the gray-clothed youth's gaze move from him and onto Ku Er, he was enlightened. So the reason turned out to be Ku Er. Duanling Tian couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Late at night, the room was brightly illuminated by lamplight. The youth sat cross-legged in the bath barrel that was filled with medicinal liquid, painstakingly cultivating, practically forgetting everything else. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, spirit serpent form. 7 treasures body, tempering liquid, continuously poured into his body. The medicinal strength of the dark spirit fruit was also dissolving at an extremely fast speed, merging into the youth's flesh, blood, and bones. If he wanted to win the champion's position at the clan martial meet in 3 days and obtain the 350-year-old bloodlingji, then he must break through to the 9th level of the body tempering stage. Still a little bit more. Perceiving the speed of which his fleshly body underwent metamorphosis and his lifeblood grew reducing, the youth opened his eyes and sighed. Yawning, the drowsy youth instantly fell asleep. He slept until morning the next day. Young master, young master. An anxious voice sounding from outside his room caused the youth to be startled awake. Ku Er, what happened? Not having time to put on an outer garment, the youth was wearing his sleeping clothes as he opened the door and looked towards the young girl outside. Young master, look. In the young girl's hands, 2 fist-sized python eggs were violently trembling. Kacha. Quickly, the 2 python eggs broken open one after another. 2 exquisite little pythons stretched their heads out and poked out their tongues before swallowing down the python egg shell fragments. Subsequently, they looked at each other with unsatisfied expressions before looking at Duanling Tian and then at Ku Er. The 2 pairs of tiny eyes emitted a deep sense of attachment. as if they were looking at their parents. Young master, they don't look anything like a black python. Ku-er sized up the two little pythons before her willow-shaped eyebrows lightly knit together. They aren't alike. Duan Ling Tian was also sizing up the two little pythons. The two little pythons were black and white respectively. The white little python had silver markings on its body. The markings were extremely complicated, difficult to understand thoroughly. The black little python had gold markings on its body, exactly similar to the markings on the white little python. They both had one more similarity. Both of them had a small bulge on their heads. Duan Ling Tian searched through the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, but he didn't come across any memories that related to the two little pythons. In other words, even if Rebirth Martial Emperor was alive, he wouldn't be able to recognize the two little pythons. But in the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, there was one type of python that had slightly similar overall characteristics to the two little pythons. That python was not a black python, but a fierce beast, the snow python. According to Rebirth Martial Emperor's memories, the fierce snow python would be comparable to a nascent soul martial artist when it reaches adulthood. A martial artist cultivation after the body tempering stage was the core formation stage. After the core formation stage was the origin core stage. Only after the origin core stage was the nascent soul stage. A colossus such as the Aurora City Li clan had many origin core martial artists. But nascent soul martial artists could be counted with one's fingers. It's unlikely that the offspring of the black python was made with a snow python. Duan Ling Tian shook his head, dispersing this absurd thought. Not to mention the difference between a black python and snow python. Even the markings on the body of the two little pythons were not something neither the black python nor the snow python had. From this, it could be determined that these two little pythons were not snow pythons nor black pythons. Maybe they are similar to their father. I wonder what type of python their father is. Rebirth Martial Emperor experienced the passage of 2 lifetimes and has a wide range of knowledge and experience, but even he couldn't recognize this type of python. Duan Ling Tian silently deduced in his heart. Young master, they seem to be hungry. The young girl's voice caused Duan Ling Tian to come back to his senses. The two little pythons heard their tiny eyes wide open, flickering with pitiable brilliance as if begging for something. Duan Ling Tian took out the 2 violet thorn fruits that they brought back the other day from a corner of the room. The 2 violet thorn fruits were precisely left behind for them by the mother of the 2 little pythons. Just as Duan Ling Tian brought the 2 violet thorn fruits to Ku-er's side, the 2 little pythons' bodies trembled and they moved instantly. Whoosh, whoosh. As if transforming into a bolt of white lightning and a bolt of black lightning, they flew straight towards the violet thorned fruits in Duan Ling Tian's hand. In a few moments, the 2 violet thorned fruits had been completely nibbled by them until nothing remained. After eating their fill, the 2 little pythons fell soundly asleep. What type of snake are they? Duan Ling Tian and Ku-er glanced at each other, noticing the astonishment in each other's eyes. The speed of the 2 little pythons earlier, even if compared to their mothers, the black python, they wouldn't be much slower. An adult black python having such a speed was not strange. But these 2 little pythons had only just been born. Duan Ling Tian's subconscious felt that these 2 little pythons were not so simple. After finding a box and poking a hole in it, Duan Ling Tian placed the 2 soundly asleep little pythons within. Only after doing this did he put on his outer garments, then he grabbed Ku-er's hand and walked out of his room. Ku-er, let's go out for a walk. Duan Ling Tian and Ku-er walked out of their home, quickly arriving at the martial arts practice field. A corner of the martial arts practice field was currently surrounded by quite a few people. Let's go take a look. Duan Ling Tian and Ku-er walked over. They supposed it would be someone sparring, but only when they approached did they notice it wasn't. A blue-clothed youth stood in the middle of the crowd, saliva flying from his mouth. Combined with his tone, he seemed to be a storyteller. According to what I heard, the adult snow python in the misty forest moved like a thunderbolt, killing a few origin core martial artists of Aqua Mist City's He clan in seconds. In the midst of human martial artists, they were considered outstanding, but in front of the adult snow python, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. The blue-clothed youth continued, as if he saw all this with his own two eyes. Li Yun, is there realty a snow python inside the misty forest? Someone in the crowd asked. I, Li Yun, am famous in Aurora City for my ability to know everything, and my reputation is extremely good. News of this will spread throughout the entire Aurora City soon. At that time, you all will naturally know that what I said was true. Li Yun held his head high with a face full of confidence. Li Yun, you know every bit of news at the first moment, this we do not doubt. But this matter is truly unbelievable. Yeah, according to reason, during this season, this python species of wild animals and fierce beasts should be hibernating, especially a top-ranked fierce beast like the snow python. According to the records and books, among the python-type fierce beasts, the snow python has the highest level of somnolence. Another person voiced their doubt. What you said isn't wrong, but according to the Origin Core stage lucky survivor of the Aqua Mist Cities He clan, that snow python seemed to have gone completely mad, killing anyone it saw, as if it was venting its anger. Li Yun lightly nodded as he continued. The surrounding crowd were in high spirits. A few people even curiously asked, what do you think is the reason the snow python became like this? My personal guess is either its mate was killed by humans, or its offspring have died, Li Yuan said. The speaker had no particular intention in saying it, but the listener understood. Duan Ling Tian and Ku Er glanced at each other before leaving the crowd. Young master, do you think that Snow Python is the father of the two little pythons? Ku Er's clear eyes emitted a trace of compassion. There is such a possibility. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flickered. The two little pythons were indeed possibly the offspring of the black python and snow python, and due to certain reasons, a variation occurred. Through the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian knew that variant fierce beasts existed. Young master, should we send them home? Ku Er said. Her clear eyes were slightly wet. She seemed to have thought of something. Ku Er, what's wrong? Duan Ling Tian had a worried expression. I thought of my mother. When my mom left me, I felt my whole world collapse. The feelings of that snow python right now are certainly the same as how I felt before. Ku Er's voice slightly trembled as she spoke. Duan Ling Tian took advantage of the opportunity and embraced her in his arms, lightly patting her back as he gently said, Silly girl, don't you still have me? Being able to meet young master is my good luck, but that snow python. Ku Er's voice was almost in tears. Duan Ling Tian touched Ku Er's beautiful hair as he smelled the fresh fragrance it emitted and slowly said, It's okay. I promise you, after the clan martial meet ends, we can send them back home. When he returned home, Duan Ling Tian noticed that the small box was empty. The two little pythons had vanished. Just when he and Ku Er were about to go looking for them. Whoosh, whoosh. A black and a white bolt of lightning approached. The black little python coiled itself around Duan Ling Tian's wrist, and the white little python coiled itself around Ku Er's wrist, playfully flicking out their tongues at them. They really are two little rascals. Duan Ling Tian shook his head as he smiled. Ku Er, give them names. Duan Ling Tian gazed at Ku Er. Let's call them Little White and Little Black. Ku Er lightly smiled. From now on, you're called Little Black. Duan Ling Tian raised his hand and looked at the little black python that was coiled on his wrist. At this moment, a strange scene took place. Duan Ling Tian saw that the little python actually looked at him and nodded its head, causing Duan Ling Tian to be dazed from shock. This little black python could understand human speech? After a moment, he noticed that the little black python was still continuously nodding. Only then did Duan Ling Tian realize that he had overthought things. The little black python seemed to have entangled itself with Duan Ling Tian and was unwilling to leave. The little white python was entangled with Ku Er as well. The two of them were helpless and could only bring them along at their side. After a moment of distinguishing, Duan Ling Tian noticed the little black python was male, whereas the little white python was female. That night, when Duan Ling Tian sat inside the bath barrel to cultivate, he noticed the little black python dive into the bath barrel, swimming across the surface of the water as it swallowed the seven treasures body tempering liquid. At the same time, The gold markings on its body started to flicker in a dark gold luster until it finished eating a full portion of the seven treasures body tempering liquid. Only after it was satisfied did it fly out. Then it lied on the corner of the bath barrel and slept. At this moment, the dark gold luster on its body slowly dimmed. I wonder what this little python has varied into, Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. 2 days passed. Tomorrow was the second round of competition for the clan martial meet, and it was the true clan martial meet. Duan Ling Tian's cultivation still wasn't able to break through. Although he could feel he was at a threshold, he still couldn't break through after a long time. He had already absorbed 80% of the dark spirit fruit's medicinal strength. Is it not my fate to get that 350-year-old bloodlingji? Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly. Hiss hiss. He heard a light sound enter his ears. Only now did Duan Ling Tian notice that little black python was contracted at the corner of the bed, flicking its tongue in what seemed like a greeting to him. Whoosh! In the next moment, the little black python's body trembled and it started wriggling. Sometimes slow, sometimes transforming into black lightning. Silent like a hermit, moving like a mad rabbit. At the beginning, Duan Ling Tian only used a curious gaze as he sized up the little black python. But slowly, the little black python's movements seemed to give him a certain enlightenment. His gaze became engrossed and dull. At this moment, the world in his eyes seemed to only contain the little black python that continuously flashed about. The 9-Dragon War Sovereign Technique's first form, the Spirit Serpent form, originally stressed upon allowing the cultivator's fleshly body to increase its strength while maintaining the body's flexibility and agility like spirit serpents. Now, as the little black python's movements reflected into Duan Ling Tian's eyes, it seemed to have ignited something. Now he was suddenly enlightened about things he couldn't understand in the past. Bang! Seeming to suddenly be filled with wisdom and enlightenment, Duan Ling Tian's body slightly shook as he closed his eyes and circulated the spirit serpent form mental cultivation method. With a trace of understanding, he started cultivating. Tonight was bound to be a sleepless night for Duan Ling Tian. His mind completely merged with the changes happening inside his body. Lifeblood increasing at a terrifying speed. The fleshly body was even going through an extreme metamorphosis. Duan Ling Tian himself was unaware of how long he cultivated for until a ray of sunlight passed through the window and descended upon him. Only then did he awaken. Only now did Duan Ling Tian notice that the clothes on his body were extremely dirty. A liquid similar to black oil had flowed out of his entire body. It was extremely sticky and rancid. He removed his clothes and sat inside the bath barrel before cleaning his body with great effort. After cleaning up, he clenched his fists, slightly using some strength. Duan Ling Tian abruptly lifted his head. Hua! Above him, the forces of heaven and earth shook before developing into 3 ancient mammoth silhouettes. They were extremely lifelike. Lightly reducing the amount of strength exerted, one of the ancient mammoth silhouettes vanished. Reducing his strength once more, another ancient mammoth silhouette vanished. Perfect! Duan Ling Tian abruptly stood up and changed his clothes. His expression couldn't help but be filled with smiles. He succeeded. Before the clan martial meet, he smoothly broke through to the 9th level of the body tempering stage. Possessing the strength of 3 ancient mammoths, the crazy theory of Rebirth Martial Emperor had perfectly been accomplished. Hiss hiss. A sound entered his ears as the little black python transformed into a bolt of lightning, coiled around Duan Ling Tian's wrist, and started nodding towards him. The little black python's actions, in Duan Ling Tian's eyes, seemed to be it seeking credit for his achievement. After the clan martial meet ends, I'll get you something good to eat. Duan Ling Tian lightly rubbed Little Black's body as he lightly smiled. Little Black closed its eyes with an expression of enjoyment. Please leave, we don't welcome you here. Suddenly, Ku'er's voice sounded from outside, containing a trace of anger. Duan Ling Tian's face distorted. Ever since Ku'er had started following him, it was the first time he heard her speaking with such a tone. Someone obviously had infuriated her. After opening his room's door, Duan Ling Tian walked out in large strides. With a glance, he noticed the two youths standing at the courtyard door. One of them was precisely the gray-clothed youth from before. Brother, in asking you to follow him to the martial arts practice field is him thinking highly of you. I've already been courteous to you, now don't push your luck. The other green-clothed youth looked at Ku'er, getting slightly angry out of embarrassment. Young master. But in the young girl's eyes, only the young master that had just walked out of his room in large strides mattered. The green-clothed youth's face turned grim as he shouted in a low voice, I'm talking to you. K off. Duan Ling Tian coldly swept the green-clothed youth with his gaze, his voice containing a trace of icy coldness. You're courting death. The green-clothed youth's gaze turned cold, and he was about to enter the courtyard to fight Duan Ling Tian. Smack! Just at this moment, the gray-clothed youth's hand descended upon the green-clothed youth's shoulder, stopping him. The gray-clothed youth looked at Duan Ling Tian in a condescending manner as he indifferently said, You aren't worthy of her. So you mean you're worthy? Duan Ling Tian laughed. He had met arrogant people before, but never someone arrogant to this extent. Lian's eyes flickered as he threateningly said, Of course. I, Lian, at the age of 18, am the second strongest in the younger generation of the clan. How could you, an uneducated bumpkin, compare to me? Kid, if you're sensible, hurry up and leave her side. Second, if someone didn't know better, after seeing how brazen you are, they would think you were number one. So it turns out you're only number two. Duan Ling Tian laughed. Say what you want, but in the clan martial meet, I will certainly drench my 3-foot blade with your blood. Don't think that you can look down on others just because you've broken through to the 9th level of the body tempering stage. The core formation stage is only the beginning of the path of martial Dao. The current you is only an ordinary martial artist. Lian ridiculed him before leaving with the green-clothed youth. Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed within. Drench his 3-foot blade with blood? Young master, you broke through? Ku'er was slightly startled. Yes, I just broke through. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as he nodded. Ku'er, what happened earlier? Duan Ling Tian inquired. They asked me to go to the martial arts practice field with them. I rejected them, so the green-clothed youth kept pestering me. While mentioning the two of them, Ku'er's eyes flashed with a trace of disgust. Next time, you don't have to bother with senseless people like them. Just ignore them directly. Duan Ling Tian smiled. Okay, young master. I'll go help madam in the kitchen. Ku'er nodded before transforming into a gust of wind and entering the kitchen. During breakfast, Tian, that Lian will certainly be gunning for you during the clan martial meet. Be careful, Li Ro reminded Duan Ling Tian. I know, Mom, Duan Ling Tian replied with an unconcerned expression. Don't think that just because you killed Fong Chong in Fresh Breeze Town you can act outrageously. Although Fong Qian was a martial artist at the first level of the core formation stage and possessed the strength of 2 ancient mammoths, due to the limitations of his martial skills, his strength wasn't even half of Lian's, Li Ro continued. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled. He naturally knew all this. Maybe when Fong Chong attacked, his overall state would have been the same as Lian's, both being first-level core formation martial artists and therefore able to draw upon the forces of heaven and earth, developing it into 2 ancient mammoth silhouettes. However, due to the difference between their martial skills, in a head-on battle, Lian could kill Fong Chong in a single move. If Lian circulated his defensive martial skill, he could just stand there. Even if Fong Chong hit him until he collapsed from exhaustion, Fong Chong wouldn't be able to hurt a single hair on his body. If Lian circulated his movement technique, Fong Chong would only be able to eat his dust. This was exactly the difference in martial skills. The higher the martial arts rank is, the better its ability to perfectly exert the strength of the cultivator's entire body. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled. As Li Ro saw it, he was unconcerned and persisting to do things his own way. Ku'er, hurry up and persuade him. Li Ro quickly decided to get Ku'er to help. Madam, I believe in the young master. The young girl replied with a single sentence, showing her confidence towards Duan Ling Tian. I really wonder what magic potion Tian gave you. Li Ro had a helpless expression. Mom, don't worry and be at ease. Your son will only let others suffer losses. He himself won't suffer any. After the clan martial meet ends, I'll bring back the prize for the champion and let you see it properly. After eating his fill, Duan Ling Tian left behind this short line before leaving with Ku Air. They proceeded to the martial arts practice field. Young master, it's big sister Shur. On the way, the two of them met Li Shur. The two became three. In the clan martial meet, the 30 newly advanced inner court disciples will compete with the other 56 inner court disciples. According to what I know, 5 of the inner court disciples have already stepped into the core formation stage. Li Shur shared the information that she knew of. Duan Ling Tian lightly nodded. So we don't have any chance for the top 3. The core formation stage isn't something the body tempering stage can compare to. What we can do now is strive to enter the top 10. To little sister Ku Air and you, it isn't really difficult. So how about it? Are you confident you can defeat Li Kuang and win over a spot in the top 6? Li Shur looked at Duan Ling Tian. 6th? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled.
What?
Li Shur was puzzled. I'm not interested in being the 6th, Duan Ling Tian said indifferently. Then what position are you interested in? Li Shur asked. The champion. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed with a trace of confidence. Li Shur was instantly struck dumb. Champion? This Duan Ling Tian really dared to imagine. Ha 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 ha. Just at this moment, loud laughter sounded from behind the three of them. The laughter was filled with disdain. 2 figures quickly passed by the 3 of them. It was precisely the 2 brothers, Li Zhong and Li Xiao. Obviously, they overheard what Duan Ling Tian said. Duan Ling Tian, if you want to be the champion, then you have to defeat me. I'll be waiting. Li Zhong glanced at Duan Ling Tian, his face filled with a mocking expression. Duan Ling Tian ignored Li Zhong. He liked to use facts to prove everything. Debating was meaningless. Duan Ling Tian and the 2 girls quickly arrived at the inner court martial arts practice field. The 30 combat arenas remained. Presently, the 30 combat arenas were fully surrounded by people. Some were inner court disciples who were participating in the clan martial meet, and there were some Li clan disciples who came to join in the fun. After a short moment, the 3 chief judges appeared. The 30 judges, on the other hand, got each on the 30 combat arenas. Silence. The white-eyebrowed old man in the lead's voice clearly transmitted into the ears of everyone present. For a moment, the noisy martial arts practice field became completely silent. Condensing origin energy into sound, this is something only a martial artist above the 7th level of the origin core stage is capable of. Duan Ling Tian looked at the white-eyebrowed old man with a slightly startled expression. Today, the inner court disciples between the ages of 16 and 19 will carry out the final part of the clan martial meet. This competition will decide the top 10, top 3, and the champion, all of whom will obtain the generous prizes of the clan, the white-eyebrowed old man said slowly. Subsequently, another chief judge started narrating the prizes for the top 10 disciples of this year's clan martial meet, the prizes of the top 3, and finally the champion's prize. Duan Ling Tian knew of this since long ago. But the prizes that the chief judge spoke of still aroused the morale of most of the inner court disciples that were participating. Today's clan martial meet will be conducted on a point basis where everyone begins with a single point. Every victory increases their points by 1, while every defeat reduces their points by 1. Finally, the ranking will be listed based upon the accumulated points. As for the question of fairness, you can all be at ease. Out of the 86 inner court disciples, unless accidents happen, everyone will need to battle 85 times. The chief judge explained the rules. For a moment, many people drew in a breath of cold air. 85 battles. Wouldn't that mean that they would have to battle every single inner court disciple? That pace would exhaust people to death. This year's clan martial meet will be divided into 3 days. The clan has already planned out your battle order, pushing down the amount of battles per person per day down to 30 or below. The chief judge continued. Only now did the crowd of inner court disciples heave a sigh of relief. Now, The people called upon by the judge enter the relevant arena. If you don't appear within 5 minutes, it will be considered as a forfeit, the chief judge said. The 30 judges on the combat arenas quickly started calling names. The first battle of the first round had a familiar face to Duanling Tian. Li Yuan. Li Yuan's first opponent was a youth around the age of 18. Their bodies jerked as they flew towards each other. Above their heads, ancient mammoth silhouettes were indistinctly visible. In a mere move, their speed difference was obvious. Li Yuan's speed looked to be slightly faster. After a moment, he found an opportunity to dash to the back of his opponent. Heart Destruction Palm. A clear-cut palm strike slapped on his opponent's back, blasting him off the combat arena. Li Yuan is victorious. The judge immediately announced the result. The middle-grade profound rank movement technique, unfettered steps, which Li Yuan cultivates, actually had breakthrough to the mastery stage. Seeing this scene, Duanling Tian was mildly shocked. In terms of speed, unfettered steps at the mastery stage was not one bit inferior to the high-grade profound rank movement technique, spirit serpent movement technique, at the initial stage. I've been so busy trying to break through to the 9th level of the body tempering stage that I've actually let my movement technique drop behind. After the clan martial meet ends, I need to increase the cultivation stage of my spirit serpent movement technique, Duanling Tian thought in his heart. Unlike defensive martial arts, which could be improved by directly consuming medicinal items, improving movement techniques required painstaking cultivation. There were no possible shortcuts. Li Yuan walked off the combat arena in large strides. When he noticed Duanling Tian looking at him, he met Duanling Tian's gaze, and the corners of his mouth emitted a provoking and cold smile. Duanling Tian retracted his gaze, indifferent. If it was before he broke through, the current Li Yuan might be someone he would confront seriously. But now, Li Yuan was not on the same level as him. To the extent that in his eyes, the current Li Yuan was weak and fragile like a child. In terms of strength, Duanling Tian was currently comparable to a martial artist at the 2nd level of the core formation stage. On the 30 combat arenas, the inner court disciples contended against each other like a raging fire. After each of the inner court disciples determined the victor, the judges would start recording their points. Duanling Tian. Finally, the judge called upon Duanling Tian's name. Combat Arena Number 3. Duanling Tian's body moved towards the arena. His opponent was a slightly straightforward and robust youth. "I'm Li Zhan. Please go easy on me." The robust youth naively smiled. "I'm Duanling Tian." Duanling Tian returned a smile. Across the entire surrounding combat arenas, the inner court disciples that competed would practically start fighting the moment they entered the arena. It was rare for them to speak to each other. Everyone wanted to swiftly defeat their opponent and win points. Li Zhan, however, was a special case. Whoosh! Li Zhan moved. His robust figure did not seem one bit heavy and cumbersome. With the strength of an ancient mammoth exploding out, Li Zhan's entire body seemed to have transformed into a gust of wind that blew towards Duanling Tian. Spirit Serpent Movement Technique. Duanling Tian moved to meet him head-on. In terms of speed, Duanling Tian was slightly faster than the robust youth. Of course, this was under the precondition that Duanling Tian suppressed his strength at the strength of an ancient mammoth. Li Zhan attacked a few times, unable to touch Duanling Tian. "I admit defeat." Abruptly, Li Zhan's figure stopped. "Up till now, only my speed was faster than yours, but you're already admitting defeat?" Duanling Tian was slightly startled. "This is enough. If your speed is faster than mine, you've already placed yourself in an invincible position. Continuing would be meaningless." Li Zhan naively laughed. He was extremely straightforward. He then jumped off the combat arena. Duanling Tian faintly smiled. This Li Zhan was really clear-cut. He followed and jumped off the combat arena. Where's Ku-air? When Duanling Tian noticed that the young girl wasn't where she was earlier, he couldn't help himself from looking around to find her. After a short moment, on the neighboring combat arena, Duanling Tian saw the young girl's figure. Whoosh! The young girl stood there as the violet meteorite flexible sword in her hand soundlessly stuck itself to the side of her opponent's neck. If she used an ounce of strength, her opponent would surely lose his life. Her opponent's body slightly trembled as his cold sweat poured out. Then he said, in a flustered tone, I admit defeat. Only then did the young girl withdraw her sword. Under the burning gazes of the surrounding people, she descended the combat arena and returned to Duan Ling Tian's side. The heavenly couple instantly attracted the attention of many people. Even more of those gazes were filled with jealousy and envy. Humph! Not far away, the gray-clothed youth who achieved one more victory after his opponent took the initiative and admitted defeat, gazed coldly through the air descending upon Duan Ling Tian. Up till now, he had already won 2 matches. As a core formation martial artist, the opponents he met wouldn't even have the guts to fight him. They all admitted defeat before the fight started. A day's time quickly passed. Duan Ling Tian won 27 straight matches, accumulating 28 points. Ku Er won 28 straight matches, accumulating 29 points. The overall results for today were quickly released. On the notice board, today's results for the 86 inner court disciples were displayed for everyone to see. They were ranked according to the total accumulated points. Duan Ling Tian quickly found a problem. Besides him and Ku Er, there were still over 10 people who were similar to them, having maintained a 30-win streak. Among them were quite a few people Duan Ling Tian knew. Li Shi, Li Yuan, Li Zhong, Lian. Placed at the front were all those who had obtained 30 points, a total of 5 people, all having a streak of 29 wins. Among the 5 were Li Zhong and Lian. The battles arranged by the clan today did not cause any of the relatively stronger inner court disciples to battle. They obviously purposefully arranged it this way so that the stronger disciples could battle towards the end of the martial meet. Duan Ling Tian could guess the reason why so many people maintained a winning streak. Little sister Ku Er, you're so formidable, obtaining 29 points. Li Shi arrived besides Ku Er. Big sister Shi, I only participated in an extra match compared to you. If your match count was higher by 1, then our points would be similar. Ku Er lightly smiled. Li Shi was similar to Duan Ling Tian, having a streak of 27 wins, obtaining 28 points. The clan purposefully arranged it like this for sure. Look, the 5 people who were ranked at the top with a score of 30 points, they're all the clans below 19 core formation stage inner court disciples, but this is normal. They had the easiest time today. Without even having to make a move, their opponents admitted defeat, Li Shi slowly said. Duan Ling Tian's eyebrows knit. All at the core formation stage? Besides Li Zhong and Lian, which he had met before, he had never once seen the other 3. His gaze fell upon the notice board. Li Qing, Li Fei, Li Hu. These 3 people were the other 3 core formation stage inner court disciples. Duan Ling Tian, you can consider yourself lucky for now, but we will meet each other sooner or later. At that time, I will properly entertain you. Li Zhong had brought Li Xiao to walk past Duan Ling Tian. When they were close, the corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Idiot! Duan Ling Tian indifferently spat out a word. What did you say? Li Zhong's body jerked, the smile on his face froze, and he slowly turned around. A pair of flaming eyes stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian. Ku Er, let's go home. Ignoring Li Zhong, Duan Ling Tian held the young girl's hand and walked off. Li Shi glanced at Li Zhong with an odd gaze before catching up to Duan Ling Tian and Ku Er. Li Zhong's body was shaking. The gazes of ridicule from the surroundings caused his expression to turn extremely gloomy. Hee, Li Zhong. He called you an idiot, and you actually endured it. I really admire you. Just at this moment, the gray-clothed youth arrived beside Li Zhong and indifferently laughed. Lian, don't think I don't know what you're aiming for. Stop trying to sow discord here. In the next 2 days, I will meet him sooner or later and will defeat him, and then I'll mercilessly humiliate him. It doesn't require your concern. After coldly sweeping a gaze at Lian, Li Zhong took Li Xiao and left. Lian's expression turned grim, turning angry from embarrassment. On the way home, little sister Ku Er, did you see Li Fei today? Li Shi asked the young girl beside her. Li Fei? The young girl was dazed. Yeah, Li Fei, the #1 beauty of the inner court. But now that there's little sister Ku Er, her title of #1 beauty of the inner court might not only be hers anymore. Li Shir lightly smiled. Big sister Shir, you're teasing me again. I'm telling the truth. As the two girls talked, their topic slowly moved to Lian. Duan Ling Tian, you have to be careful of that, Lian. At least 10 inner court disciples were crippled by him in last year's clan martial meet. Li Shir said to Duan Ling Tian with a serious expression. Crippled? Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed coldly. Who gets crippled when the time comes isn't certain yet. In the clan's younger generation, Li An's strength is only below Li Qing's. He's stronger than the other 3 core formation disciples. Noticing Duan Ling Tian's unconcerned expression, Li Shir warned again. Among the 5 core formation disciples, the strongest, Li Qing. What's his cultivation? Duan Ling Tian finally said something. But it wasn't to discuss Lian. Rather, it was moving the conversation topic to the strongest in the clan's younger generation, Li Qing. He's naturally at the first level of the core formation stage. The reason Li Qing is the most formidable is because he cultivated the high-grade profound rank martial skill, strongman's finger, to the mastery stage. Combined with his perfection stage middle-grade profound rank movement technique and defensive martial skill, he sweeps through all opposition. He is publicly acknowledged as the disciple with the highest comprehension ability in the current younger generations of the clan. Li Shir's eyes flashed with a trace of respect as she slowly said this. High natural talent increases the speed at which one's cultivation level progresses. High comprehension ability increases the speed at which the martial skill cultivation progresses. It has to be said that Li Qing was indeed a person with an extremely high natural talent and comprehension ability. Perfection stage middle-grade profound rank movement technique and defensive martial skill, comparable to a mastery stage high-grade profound rank movement technique and defense martial skill. In terms of movement technique and defense techniques, he slightly surpasses me. In terms of offensive martial skills, relying on sword drawing arts, I'm not afraid of his strongman's finger. Duan Ling Tian lightly muttered to himself. But if I fully exert the strength of 3 ancient mammoths, even with my movement technique and defensive martial skills being lower than his by a stage, I will still be able to compete with him. Duan Ling Tian's eyes shone brightly, slightly filled with anticipation. This time, no matter what, the clan martial meet's champion prize would be his for sure. Not for honor, but only for the sake of the 350-year-old blood Lingji. After just returning home and entering the courtyard. Whoosh, whoosh. A black and white bolt of lightning greeted them, respectively descending upon Duan Ling Tian and Ku Er's wrists, coiling together. The 2 little pythons nodded to them like normal humans. These 2 little things, I really do feel a little unwilling. Thinking about how he would have to send them home after the end of the clan martial meet, Duan Ling Tian sighed. I'm not willing either, but if we don't send them home, their father will surely be extremely sad. Ku Er couldn't bear to part with them either. Hiss hiss. The 2 little pythons seemed like they didn't even notice their vexation, happily flicking out their tongues. On the next day, the clan martial meet continued. Although today's martial meet was slightly more intense than yesterday's, under the intentional arrangement of invisible forces, the stronger inner court disciples still did not face each other. Duan Ling Tian and Ku Er didn't meet any opponent that could threaten them, so they continued to maintain their winning streak. When dusk arrived, the results on the notice board had experienced some change as opposed to yesterday. Today, Duan Ling Tian had 1 more match compared to Ku Er. Their points were tied, both accumulating a total point score of 57. Today, the inner court disciples with the highest points were still the 5 core formation disciples. They each had 60 points. After undergoing 2 days of competition, the warm-up has finally ended. Tomorrow will be the most exciting moment. An inner court disciple sighed. Everyone deeply felt the same. According to the current situation, tomorrow would surely be an intense struggle. Just after arriving home, Ku Er entered the kitchen to help Li Ro prepare some food. Duan Ling Tian hadn't even sat down for a while before he was greeted by an unexpected guest. You're Duan Ling Tian? The person in the lead seemed to be an astute middle-aged man. You are? Duan Ling Tian was puzzled. I'm the outer court manager, Li Yi. After you became an inner court disciple, the clan arranged a new residence for you in the inner court. It was just cleared up today, so I brought a few people along to see if you needed any help moving over. The middle-aged man's tone was filled with courtesy without any airs, communicating with Duan Ling Tian in an equal manner. Duan Ling Tian's strength was something he had heard of, and he knew that this youth would achieve great things in the future, so he could not offend him lightly. Thank you, Uncle Li. We don't really have anything that needs to be moved. Duan Ling Tian hurriedly expressed his gratitude. After notifying the two beauties in the kitchen, their family moved into the inner court. The two beauties entered the kitchen of their new home, continuing their unfinished dinner preparations. After sending Li Yi off, Duan Ling Tian sized up their new home. The new home was extremely large and its courtyard was extremely wide, more than a few times larger than the courtyard of the previous house. From now on, I don't have to go to the martial arts practice field to cultivate my movement technique. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as his body moved. Spirit Serpent Movement Technique. He quickly started to cultivate his movement technique in the wide courtyard. Flexible like a spirit serpent, swift like a bolt of lightning. Whoosh, whoosh. The two little pythons flew out, coiling up the large tree in the courtyard. They were extremely lively. The black and white bolts of lightning entered Duan Ling Tian's field of vision, enlarging limitlessly. Spirit Serpent Movement Technique was originally made by Rebirth Martial Emperor based on serpents, and thus has an extremely close interwoven relationship with snakes. The other time, I observed Little Black's movements and was filled with enlightenment. Only then was I able to coordinate with the Seven Treasures Body Tempering Liquid and Dark Spirit Fruit and cultivate my Spirit Serpent form to the highest stage in a single night, breaking through to the 9th level of the Body Tempering stage. The Spirit Serpent form is related to serpents, and Spirit Serpent Movement Technique is similarly related to serpents, Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. Maybe. Duan Ling Tian quickly gazed at the flexible bodies of the two little pythons who were playing on the large tree, learning their movements to the best of his ability. Slow at times, swift at times. After an unknown amount of time, Duan Ling Tian deeply felt that this method really worked. Although he was still quite far from breaking through to the mastery stage of the Spirit Serpent Movement Technique, Duan Ling Tian could still feel his Spirit Serpent Movement Technique progressing by leaps and bounds. Once the clan martial meet is over tomorrow, I'll get something good for you two little things to eat. Duan Ling Tian gazed at the two little pythons, his mood elated. Duan Ling Tian. A familiar voice sounded from outside the courtyard. How did you know we moved over here? After arriving outside the courtyard and seeing Li Shi, Duan Ling Tian was slightly shocked. It isn't only you who moved over. Don't you forget, I'm now an inner court disciple as well. Li Shi smiled. You mean? Duan Ling Tian was startled. We're neighbors from now on. Li Shi continued. Big sister Shi, you moved in next door? At this moment, Ku Er, who was carrying some food out, heard what Li Shi had said. She became slightly excited as her small face blushed. Yup, little sister Ku Er, we can see each other more often from now on. Li Shi lightly smiled as she nodded. As she spoke to Ku Er, she didn't forget to cast a glance at Duan Ling Tian. But she was bound to be disappointed. Ku Er, you two continue chatting. I'll go help Mom carry the food out, Duan Ling Tian said to Ku Er before entering the kitchen. After the food had been carried out. Shi, come eat with us. Li Ro looked towards Li Shi as she invited her. Aunt Ro, that's not necessary. My mom is waiting for me at home. Little sister Ku Er, I'll be going home now. See you tomorrow. Li Shi politely declined Li Ro's invitation before returning home. After the food, Duan Ling Tian continued to cultivate his Spirit Serpent Movement Technique in the courtyard. He understood the principle of striking the iron while it was hot. Dusk the next day. Escorted by Ku Er and Li Shi, Duan Ling Tian went towards the martial arts practice field. On the way, he naturally could not avoid drawing many envious gazes. If a gaze could kill, Duan Ling Tian would probably have died countless times over. Since their home was in the inner court, it wasn't far from the martial arts practice field. They arrived in a few moments. So many people. After arriving at the martial arts practice field, Li Shishir couldn't stop herself from exclaiming. The current martial arts practice field was filled with streams of people flowing about. There were youths, young adults, and even many middle-aged and old people. Not only that, but on the high platform surrounded by the 30 combat arenas, there was an extra middle-aged man and a few old people beside the 3 chief judges. Duan Ling Tian gazed over. The middle-aged man had a firm expression with an imposing manner, and he wore a green robe with gold borders, seeming to have an extraordinary bearing. He sat at the middlemost seat on the high platform. His identity was obvious: the Li clan's patriarch, Li Ao. As for the other few old people, they certainly had extraordinary identities as they were able to sit on Li Ao's sides. He reckoned they were figures of the elder level. I didn't expect that even the patriarch would come personally. Drawing in a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian's heart slightly stirred. Silence. After a short while, the patriarch Li Ao stood up. He had condensed his origin energy into sound and transmitted it into the ears of everyone present. Condensing origin energy into sound again. Duan Ling Tian's heart trembled. This patriarch that appeared to be around 50 years old was actually a powerhouse who was at least a 7th-level origin core martial artist. Although streams of people were flowing about, the entire martial arts practice field was currently deathly silent. Everyone's gaze descended onto Patriarch Li Ao. Among these gazes, some were fanatical, some were filled with reverence, and some were startled. I'm extremely happy that every year, I'm able to witness the unparalleled demeanor of my Li clan's younger generation. After today, this year's clan martial meet will officially come to an end. The disciples ranked in the top 10, top 3, and the champion will receive prizes personally distributed by me. I won't waste time with any more nonsense. Fellow judges, begin. Li Ao sat back down after finished. Streams of people flowed, surrounding the 30 combat arenas. The 2 people whose names were called would enter the combat arena and proceed to battle intensely. The winner would obtain a point, and the loser would have a point deducted. After a morning's worth of time passed. Although he met with some opponents that were quite strong in the later matches, Duan Ling Tian still maintained his winning streak. At noon, he had already accumulated 73 points. The maximum number of points was 86 points. He still hadn't lost up till now. In other words, among the 86 inner court disciples, there were only 13 other people who hadn't met him in battle yet. Ku'er maintained a winning streak as well. Until now, there was still no one who could dodge the violet meteorite flexible sword in her hand. After a short moment, Ku'er was back on the arena again. This time, her opponent was Li Yuan. On the combat arena, Li Yuan gazed at the slim and graceful young girl, appearing somewhat embarrassed. The young girl stood on the spot with a tranquil expression. Li Yuan moved. Unfettered steps. The strength of an ancient mammoth fully exerted as he flashed towards the young girl. Sword drawing arts. The young girl moved as well, then the violet sword shine flashed before vanishing, moving towards Li Yuan. In the air, an ancient mammoth silhouette was indistinctly visible. Who? Li Yuan hastily moved aside. The light but piercing cold sword howl caused his expression to instantly change, not daring to face the young girl's edge head-on. He actually dodged. In these 3 days, Li Yuan is the first person able to dodge her sword. As expected of the former top 3 in the outer court, he indeed has some strength. The crowd surrounding the combat arena discussed together. Some people guessed that maybe Ku'er would lose. Only Duan Ling Tian had a tranquil expression. No one was clearer of Ku'er's strength than him. Besides the sword drawing arts that was comparable to a mastery stage middle-grade profound rank sword skill, Ku'er's high-grade profound rank defense skill, stealth substitution, and her movement technique, profound rippling steps, were all cultivated to the initial stage. Ku'er's natural talent and comprehension ability was something that even he couldn't help but be shocked by. In terms of cultivation, Ku'er and Li Yuan were comparable. In terms of movement technique, there was little to no difference. In terms of defensive martial skills, she completely dominated Li Yuan. In terms of offensive martial skills, she completely dominated Li Yuan. Until now, Ku Er had been executing her sword-drawing arts back and forth, and she hadn't executed any other martial skill. On the combat arena, Li Yuan's figure flashed unceasingly, as if he was looking for Ku Er's weak point. In the blink of an eye, his gaze shone. Heart Destruction Palm. He slapped out his palm strike, which carried along the force of heart destruction, blasting onto Ku Er's back. Just when most of the people thought that Ku Er would be seriously injured, and even some people started scolding Li Yuan for being merciless and ruthless. Stealth Substitution. On Ku Er's body, a faint chi barrier flickered. Bang! Li Yuan's full-force palm strike blasted onto Ku Er's defensive chi barrier. Instantly, all the force he exerted was diverted by her defensive chi barrier, sweeping towards an empty space. The defensive chi barrier shattered directly after, and although the young girl's light green dress lightly moved, she was without a scratch. Whoosh! Sword-drawing arts appeared again. The violet meteorite flexible sword in the young girl's hand descended onto Li Yuan's throat, just a sliver away from slicing it open. At this moment, Li Yuan had a dull expression. He was unable to regain his senses for a long time. Ku Er is victorious. The judge emitted an astonished expression as well, taking a long time before finally reacting and hurriedly announcing the results. The crowd surrounding the combat arena was dumbstruck, unable to believe that what they saw was real. Such a weak and delicate figure was actually able to block Li Yuan's mastery stage middle grade profound rank martial skill heart destruction palm. Unbelievable. Only Duan Ling Tian had a tranquil expression. He had long since guessed the outcome. Ku Er didn't even need to use her movement technique to defeat Li Yuan. Ku Er's stealth substitution was a high-grade profound rank defensive martial skill at the initial stage, comparable to a middle-grade profound rank defense martial skill at the mastery stage. The cultivation stage of Li Yuan's offensive martial skill, heart destruction palm, was comparable to Ku Er's defensive martial skill, stealth substitution. The same spear and the same shield. If the two were to clash head-on, the end result would be both perishing together. Earlier, Ku Er's defensive chi barrier fully removed the force from Li Yuan's palm strike and subsequently dispersed it, completing its mission. And right before Li Yuan could catch a breath, Ku Er's sword-drawing arts would be able to easily kill him. So Ku Er winning wasn't anything strange. This little girl, what a remarkable sword skill, and her defensive martial skill should be a high-grade profound rank martial skill without a doubt. On the high platform, the Li clan patriarch's gaze descended upon the young girl, slightly startled. Yeah, although her sword skill was the same sword strike back and forth, its might is extraordinary, and it seems to have an extremely large room for improvement. One of the elderly people on the side nodded in agreement. I've had my eye on this little girl for some time. She and that Duan Ling Tian were recommended by the Fresh Breeze Town branch family. The branch family of Fresh Breeze Town have really done a great merit this time. The lead chief judge, namely the white-eyebrowed old man, lightly smiled. Duan Ling Tian? I heard that some time ago, when this kid was at the 8th level of the body tempering stage, and by relying upon his marvelous sword skill, he defeated the Lin clan's patriarch's youngest, said another one of the elderly people beside Li Ao as his eyes shone brightly. That did indeed happen. The white-eyebrowed old man nodded with a light smile. Duan Ling Tian, Li Kuang. The judge's voice transmitted out, attracting the attention of many outer court disciples. For a period of time, the crowd of outer court disciples started surging over, surrounding the combat arena Duan Ling Tian and Li Kuang were on. It was extraordinarily bustling. They greatly looked forward to this battle. No matter whether it was Li Kuang or Duan Ling Tian, they weren't strangers to them. Li Kuang, the former top disciple in the outer court. Duan Ling Tian, a branch family disciple that arrived at the main clan 2 months ago, having once defeated Lin Qi, who was considered equal to Li Kuang. Thanks to that battle, he became famous in the outer court. Li Kuang was a name Duan Ling Tian had heard of many times. Today, however, was the first time seeing him in the flesh. Li Kuang was around the age of 17, with a tall and thick build, and a pair of eyes that were brimming with radiating vigor. Duan Ling Tian, I returned from the misty forest a few days ago, and then I heard about your deeds. I have to say, you being able to defeat Lin Qi really caused me to be surprised. But if you think you can rely on that to defeat me, then you're extremely mistaken. Li Kuang spoke in a clear-cut, straightforward manner without the slightest amount of beating around the bushes. Really? Duan Ling Tian smiled indifferently. On the high platform, this one is Duan Ling Tian? The patriarch, Li Ao, took a few extra glances at the violet-clothed youth in the combat arena. You're right, it's him. The other day, he used his 8th level body tempering cultivation to defeat Lin Qi. Now that has even broken through to the 9th level of the body tempering stage. Li Kuang probably isn't his match. The white-eyebrowed old man slightly nodded. That isn't certain. Li Kuang allegedly stayed in the misty forest for a few months. After fighting with wild animals throughout those days, he certainly would have had a breakthrough. Another elderly person disapproved. In the combat arena, Li Kuang's body jerked as he moved like thunder. Whoosh! His arms jerked as his body flew out like a gust of wind, like a rock spreading its wings, flying towards Duan Ling Tian. Above his head, an ancient mammoth silhouette dashed out with him, in a threatening manner. Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed. At the instant Li Kuang's body moved, he noticed. Li Kuang's movement technique's cultivation stage was comparable to the cultivation stage of his spirit serpent movement technique. Arcade palm. Li Kuang arrived in front of Duan Ling Tian in the blink of an eye, bringing with him a palm strike that carried the force to split open a mountain, flying straight towards Duan Ling Tian's chest in full fury. It's time to end this. Duan Ling Tian muttered to himself. Instantly, an ancient mammoth silhouette formed above him. He casually placed his right hand on his waist. Duan Ling Tian stood on the spot, immovable like a mountain, facing Li Kuang's palm strike without an intention to dodge, as if planning to withstand Li Kuang's palm strike head-on. The spectators that surrounded the combat arena were stupefied. Has this Duan Ling Tian gone mad? Li Kuang's arcade palm was a middle-grade profound rank offensive martial skill at the perfection stage, so splitting mountains and shattering rocks was nothing difficult for it. Was this Duan Ling Tian thinking of using his fleshly body to withstand the strike forcefully? On the high platform, what's this kid trying to do? Patriarch Li Ao had a startled expression. Across his lifetime, it was the first time he had ever seen such a bizarre scene. Could it be that his defensive martial skills cultivation level is on par with Li Kuang's arcade palm? The elderly person on his side was dumbfounded as well. On the combat arena, if you want to seek death, then I'll fulfill your wish. The corners of Li Kuang's mouth curled into a sneer as his palm blasted down, only a meter away from Duan Ling Tian's chest. As far as Li Kuang was concerned, unless Duan Ling Tian's defensive martial skill was on par with his arcade palm, it would be impossible for Duan Ling Tian to withstand his palm strike forcefully. However, in the entire Aurora City Li clan's disciples below the age of 20, there was only one person able to cultivate his defensive martial skills cultivation stage to be on par with his arcade palm. That person was already 19 this year, whereas Duan Ling Tian was only 16. In his opinion, the chances of this happening were too slim. Has he gone mad? At the side of the combat arena, different from Ku Er's absolute confidence towards Duan Ling Tian, Li Shi had an expression filled with worry. Li Kuang was in existence stronger than her. Even if her high-grade profound rank sword skill, synchronous shadow sword, was cultivated to the initial stage, relying upon her 3-foot-long blade, she had no confidence whatsoever to defeat Li Kuang. Under the gazes of everyone present, at the critical moment, Duan Ling Tian moved. The arm which he had casually placed on his waist earlier abruptly moved in a circle, swinging directly outwards, without using any martial skill. Just a casual circular swing. Bang! In the next moment, everyone saw. Duan Ling Tian's right arm mercilessly slammed upon Li Kuang's chest, shattering the defensive qi barrier that appeared instantaneously on Li Kuang's body. Li Kuang's palm strike was just a hair's distance away from Duan Ling Tian's chest, but unable to descend in the end. Whoosh! Li Kuang's body was blasted flying by Duan Ling Tian's arm, which swung at him in a circular motion. He flew like arrow, leaving the bowstring and collided into the side of the high platform before continuously spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood. Only then did he drop to the ground. Satisfying. Duan Ling Tian spat out a mouthful of foul air. Although he didn't use any martial skills, he did, however, use 18,000 pounds of strength, under the precondition of not drawing upon the forces of heaven and earth and developing it into the second ancient mammoth silhouette, swinging out his right arm and solidly blasting Li Kuang's chest, causing him to be blasted flying. It has to be said that this type of feeling was ***king satisfying, a feeling that made his blood boil. He quickly noticed that including the patriarch and his fellow elders on the high platform, everyone who saw the battle between him and Li Kuang was maintaining a dumbstruck expression. Until he jumped off the combat arena, only then were they able to react. ***K. Freak. A casual swing of the arm without even using martial skills was able to break Li Kuang's mastery stage defense martial skills and blast Li Kuang flying. Is this Duan Ling Tian really only a body-tempering martial artist? Is he really a human? Freak. The people who were able to regain their senses were all stupefied. If Duan Ling Tian was a core formation martial artist who could rely on his origin energy and fleshy body, such a feat would not leave them shocked. But Duan Ling Tian didn't use origin energy. He only relied upon the strength of his fleshly body to casually swing his arm. It was truly unbelievable. How did he do it? On the high platform, Patriarch Liao and the elders all glanced at each other. In their hearts, they had the same question. Can it be that he has innate superhuman strength? One of the elderly people took a deep breath as he guessed. There could only be this possibility. I could feel that the casual circular motion he swung his arm in contained a force exceeding 15,000 pounds. I reckon it was just a slight distance away from drawing upon the forces of heaven and earth to develop a second ancient mammoth silhouette. Liao nodded, agreeing to this. Normally, even if it was innate superhuman strength, at the 9th level of the body-tempering stage, their strength would at most be 2,000 pounds higher than the average person's. This Duan Ling Tian is indeed bizarre, another elderly person said. On the side of the combat arena, the crowd split open a path. It won't affect your ability to compete for the top 10, right? Duan Ling Tian walked to the panting Li Kuang, who was leaning on the side of the high platform. He was smiling in an amicable manner. After all, he didn't have any enmity with Li Kuang. It won't. Li Kuang took a deep glance at Duan Ling Tian. He was lucky that his defensive martial skill had helped him withstand most of the force, or else his injuries would not be so light. He had to respect Duan Ling Tian's strength. As far as he was concerned, Duan Ling Tian was virtually a freak. That's good. Duan Ling Tian nodded and smiled. It was all thanks to you showing mercy and not using martial skills, or else I probably would have lost my chance to make it into the top 10. Li Kuang sighed. Duan Ling Tian smiled embarrassedly before returning to Ku Er's side. What? Is there something on my face? Noticing Li Shi's strange gaze from beside Ku Er, Duan Ling Tian stared blankly. Freak. After holding back for a while, Li Shi finally spat out a word. Duan Ling Tian's expression couldn't help but freeze. Actually, it wasn't only Li Shi who thought this way. Among the surrounding people, most of them sized up Duan Ling Tian with a gaze that seemed like they were looking at a freak. Brother, after he broke through to the 9th level of the body-tempering stage, Duan Ling Tian actually became so much stronger. Nearby, Li Xiao looked towards Li Zhong. His expression was ugly. Even I didn't expect this. Li Zhong's eyes flickered and the corners of his mouth smiled faintly. As far as he was concerned, only now did it have a sense of meaning. If Duan Ling Tian was too weak, it would be boring. Brother, the other day you shouldn't have. Li Xiao suppressed his voice to a low sound. His tone had a hint of complaint. What, have you grown your wings? Are you daring to question my decisions? Li Zhong's tone turned grim, interrupting Li Xiao. No, it's not like that. Li Zhao's expression had a sense of fear as he hurriedly denied it. Even if it was true, he wouldn't dare admit it. On the other side, Brotherin, this kid's strength isn't something to take lightly. He defeated Li Kuang without using any martial skills, the green-clothed youth said to the gray-clothed youth beside him. Humph. So what? Just like I said before, until the day he steps into the core formation stage, he can only be considered an ordinary martial artist. The gray-clothed youth laughed in disdain. Of course, Brotherin, you're a core formation martial artist. No matter how strong this kid is, he is still at the body tempering stage. He will naturally not be a match for you. The green-clothed youth seized the opportunity to kiss the gray-clothed youth's ass. The clan martial meet continued. After defeating Li Kuang, Duan Ling Tian had 74 points. After that, he met and defeated a few inner court disciples with pretty good strength. No body-tempering martial artist could withstand a single move of his. Presently, Duan Ling Tian was publicly acknowledged as the #1 figure in the Li clan under the core formation stage. It wasn't long before his accumulated points rose to 79. As for Ku'er, she had 77 points, only losing a single match up till now. She lost to Li Kuang. Even though Ku'er's cultivation and martial skills cultivation stages were similar to Li Kuang's, Li Kuang was still the former top disciple of the outer court, and he has even entered deep into the misty forest to fight wild animals. In terms of combat experience, he completely outclassed Ku'er. Young master. After being defeated by Li Kuang, the young girl had a slight sense of loss. Ku'er, you lost due to inadequate experience. You wouldn't lose to Li Kuang in any other area. We will enter the misty forest and fight wild animals more often in the future, then your combat experience will naturally be abundant. Duan Ling Tian comforted her. Okay. The young girl obediently nodded. As time went by, the clan martial meet finally entered its climax. Duan Ling Tian, Li Zhong. The judge's voice sounded outwards. Li Zhong? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed, and he had a smile on his face as his body flashed up the combat arena. Li Zhong entered the combat arena before mocking him. Duan Ling Tian, we finally bumped into each other. Today, let me see what capability you have since you have the audacity to talk nonsense that you want to seize the title of champion in the clan martial meet. Duan Ling Tian, competing against a core formation inner court disciple, had attracted the attention of many spectators. After hearing what Li Zhong said, the crowd went into an uproar. It can't be. Duan Ling Tian's ambition is so huge. Is he actually thinking of seizing the title of champion in the clan martial meet? Does he really think a mere body-tempering martial artist like him can defeat a core formation martial artist? PSH. No matter how strong the body-tempering martial artist is, it will still be impossible to be a match for a core formation martial artist. Even if it's only a first-level core formation martial artist who's merely initially developed origin energy, the strength they possess would be equal to an ancient mammoth. Yeah, the strength of 2 ancient mammoths can be exerted at the first level of the core formation stage. Although this Duan Ling Tian is quite strong, he won't be strong enough until he can draw upon the forces of heaven and earth to develop 2 ancient mammoth silhouettes. He's too arrogant. Does he really think the 5 core formation inner court disciples are paper tigers? Now, let Li Zhong destroy his delusions and let him sober up properly. Even Duan Ling Tian never thought that a single sentence from Li Zhong would put him at the cusp of public opinion, attracting the disdain of so many people. But he understood. Now he could only rely on his own strength to prove himself. Only then will he be able to make these people shut their mouths for good. Clan martial meet champion. He was determined to win it. He will use his strength to prove everything. Duan Ling Tian stared fixedly at Li Zhong as he indifferently said, Li Zhong, whether I have the capability or not, you'll know once you try. I will naturally try. Not only will I try, I will defeat you in one move and let you properly experience the difference between the core formation stage and the body tempering stage. Li Zhong sneered. One move? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed. Whoosh. Li Zhong moved and the origin energy in his feet burst forth. He immediately using the strength of 2 ancient mammoths, flew out with a leap, and flashed straight towards Duanling Tian. His speed was practically double of when Li Kuang executed his movement technique. The movement technique Li Zhong executed was a high-grade profound rank movement technique, crossing river on a reed. It was his prize for battling his way into the top 10 during last year's clan martial meet. He spent a year's time to cultivate it to the initial stage. He always took pride in this achievement. Your speed is quite fast. Duanling Tian's gaze brightened as his body jerked, abruptly flashing backwards. Suddenly, bang! Duanling Tian stomped his feet on the ground. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a cannonball, flying straight out. An ancient mammoth silhouette slowly formed, appearing in the space above him. Spirit Serpent Movement Technique. Duanling Tian transformed into a bolt of lightning, moving to greet the violently approaching Li Zhong. No matter whether it was Patriarch Liao, the elders in the high platform, or the spectators, they all couldn't help but hold their breath. Looking at this stance, it was clear that Duanling Tian was planning to fight Li Zhong head-on. As he flashed forward, Duanling Tian's upper body tilted backward into the shape of a bow, as if transforming into a strong, heavy bow. Whereas opposite of him, Li Zhong underwent largely similar movements. Collapsing fist. Duanling Tian swung his right fist out in a straight line, bringing along with it thunder-like force. Howling Tiger Fist. Li Zhong attacked as well. His fist swung out like a collapsing mountain. Bang! Their fists collided. Li Zhong sneered as the force in his fist drained out. As far as he was concerned, in terms of martial skill cultivation stage, Duanling Tian's Howling Tiger Fist was only at the mastery stage. But his Howling Tiger Fist had already stepped into the perfection stage. In terms of strength, his fleshly body and origin energy at full exertion were comparable to the strength of two ancient mammoths. Although Duanling Tian's strength wasn't bad, it didn't reach the strength of two ancient mammoths, and thus was far inferior to his. At this moment, it was as if he could hear Duanling Tian's arm bones shattering. It was as if he could see the scene of Duanling Tian being blasted flying. Humph! Noticing the sneer on the corners of Li Zhong's mouth, how could Duanling Tian not know what he was thinking? Instantly, the force in his fist drained out as well, colliding with the force of Li Zhong's fist. Li Zhong's fist force instantly suppressed and destroyed Duanling Tian's fist strength, blasting towards Duanling Tian's right arm. In this instant, if it was not remedied quickly, Duanling Tian's right arm would at least break a few bones or even become crippled. Greater teleportation. Duanling Tian was prepared. He instantly circulated his defensive martial skill. After all, Li Zhong's fist force had collided with his, so while suppressing and destroying his fist force, it had weakened considerably. The initial stage Greater Teleportation's defensive chi barrier was more than enough to fully withstand this fist force. Not only that, but even using the power of teleportation to return most of the force, do unto another what they did unto you. Presently, the scene on the combat arena was something extremely bizarre to the spectators. Seeing Li Zhong's fist strike breaking past Duanling Tian's strike, soon to blast Duanling Tian flying, just at this instant, Duanling Tian's body slightly jerked and then did not budge an inch more. On the other hand, Li Zhong's expression turned grim as he was blasted flying like an arrow leaving the bowstring, dropping on the corner of the combat arena, nearly falling off. The surroundings of the combat arena was extremely silent. Most of the people couldn't understand why Li Zhong, who seemingly had the upper hand, would be abruptly blasted flying. Could it be that he was throwing the match? On the high platform, the high-grade profound rank defensive martial skill Duanling Tian cultivated is completely different from the martial skill cultivated by the little girl beside him. It seems to be even stranger. Patriarch Liao's eyes flickered. With his cultivation base, it was easy to notice some clues. Aren't they branch clan disciples from Fresh Breeze Town? How could it be possible to have so many high-grade profound rank martial skills? Moreover, these martial skills seem to be much more remarkable than our main clan's martial skills. Another elderly person on the side was slightly startled. Don't forget, they are disciples with another surname. This Duan Ling Tian is even of the Duan surname. The Duan surname is well renowned in our Crimson Sky Kingdom, the white-eyebrowed old man slowly said. What you mean to say is the Imperial City's Duan clan? If Duan Ling Tian is really a member of the Imperial City's Duan clan, having so many remarkable martial skills isn't something strange. But I'm curious, if he's really a disciple of the Duan clan, for what reason could he have possibly come from the Fresh Breeze Town branch family and even be recommended by them to our Lee family main clan? Maybe there were certain reasons behind it. After the clan martial meet, I will send some people over to the Fresh Breeze Town branch family to do some digging. At a corner of the combat arena. Useless thing. Really throwing the face of us core formation martial artists. The gray-clothed youth swept a cold and indifferent gaze at Li Zhong. Lian, you seem to be extremely resentful towards that Duan Ling Tian. A hearty laughter approached as a green-clothed youth walked in large strides towards him. Li Hu. Lian's pupils constricted when he noticed who it was. Li who was like him, also a core formation inner court disciples that was participating in the clan martial meet. What's wrong? Not enough confidence. Li Hu laughed. How could that be possible? All he can do is play with trash like Li Zhong. Lian disdainfully laughed. On the other side, this Duan Ling Tian's strength is quite good, said a slim and graceful young girl wearing light violet clothes. Her charming red lips slightly moved with a tone that had a trace of shock. The young girl had shining eyes and white teeth, having peerless elegance. Humph, just a body-tempering martial artist. Beside the young girl stood a proud and aloof white-clothed youth. His manner of speaking seemed to portray that he looked down upon everyone. Li Qing, he isn't any simple body-tempering martial artist. When you were at the body-tempering stage, could you have achieved a feat like this? I'm slightly interested in him. Such an interesting person. The young girl faintly smiled. Her clear eyes flickered with an enchanting brilliance. The young girl, however, didn't notice that at this moment, after hearing what she said, the white-clothed youth beside her had a completely gloomy expression. His eyes even gazed upon the violet-clothed youth on the combat arena, flickering with a slight malicious gleam. Nearby, little sister Ku Er, have you always known that Duan Ling Tian was so abnormal? Li Shir noticed that the young girl beside her was not one bit shocked with Duan Ling Tian's performance. Big sister Shir, how can you say something like that about young master? The young girl was slightly displeased. Okay, I won't say anything. Li Shir hurriedly smiled apologetically, her gaze once again descending upon the violet-clothed youth in the combat arena. Duan Ling Tian, I really wonder how many lifetimes of fortune you accumulated to get a girl like Ku Er to be by your side. Li Shir sighed faintly. She understood that based solely on this fact, no one could possibly replace Ku Er's position in Duan Ling Tian's heart. Brother? Li Zhao's expression was extremely ugly. His brother was actually forced into a disadvantageous position by Duan Ling Tian in a head-on battle. On the combat arena, Li Zhong drew in a deep breath, slowly calming down his agitated mood. Duan Ling Tian, I have to admit, your defensive martial skill is really peculiar, but everything is over. As his voice dropped, Li Zhong moved once more, crossing river on a reed. His entire body jumped agilely, like a swift gust of wind. Unless your speed is faster than mine, I'll be in an invincible position. Once I find your weak point, you will undoubtedly lose. Li Zhong's voice spread out, as if coming from the surroundings. His body flashed about on the combat arena, disrupting Duan Ling Tian's line of sight. Are you really so confident? Duan Ling Tian started laughing. Spirit Serpent movement technique. Duan Ling Tian moved forward quickly, flashing out directly towards Li Zhong. Sword drawing arts. An icy cold piercing violet sword shine flashed before vanishing instantly, then flashing and vanishing once more. As if transforming into violet bolts of lightning that had eyes, precisely sealing all of Li Zhong's movements, causing Li Zhong to be unable to evade. Whoosh! The icy cold violet sword shine was like the tender caressing of a lover, caressing past Li Zhong's throat, causing his body to freeze and his expression to distort. Li Zhong unconsciously extended his hand to touch his throat. The faint trace of blood on his hand was so eye-piercing, so dazzling. Duan Ling Tian is victorious. The judge's voice sounded, containing a trace of shock. Lost? Li Zhong had a complicated gaze as he glanced at the violet-clothed youth. Subsequently, without saying a word, he jumped off the arena. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth had a faint smile from the beginning until the end. Battling with Li Zhong. From the beginning until the end, he didn't use the strength of two ancient mammoths. He held back. Doing this was a form of challenging himself. No wonder I heard the outer court disciples saying that Duan Ling Tian's most formidable move was the marvelous sword skill. Seeing it today, it really has a well-deserved reputation. The sword skill he executed is exactly similar to the young girl's beside him, but the stage at which she executes it is inferior to him. Maybe the young girl's sword skill was passed down to her by Duan Ling Tian. Defeating a first-level core formation inner court disciple with a cultivation at the 9th level of the body tempering stage, this Duan Ling Tian has really set a new record in our Li clan. Yeah, in our Li clan, such a feat is unprecedented. The crowd surrounding the combat arena discussed animatedly. At this moment, no one dared to question Duan Ling Tian's desire to seize the championship. Duan Ling Tian had this sort of strength. On the high platform, the sword skill of that little girl has already made me hold her in high esteem, but I didn't expect that Duan Ling Tian's sword skill was even more formidable. It's hard to imagine how a mere 16-year-old can cultivate his sword skill to such a stage. Patriarch Li Ao heaved a sigh. Yeah, our Li clan has never once had someone with such extraordinary talent like him. One of the elderly people on the side nodded in deep agreement. Having such strength at 16, I wonder to what extent he will grow in another 2 years. The white-eyebrowed old man's eyes flashed with a trace of slight anticipation. After jumping off the combat arena, Duan Ling Tian returned to Ku Er's side. Quickly, Duan Ling Tian noticed that besides Li Shi, there was another young girl at Ku Er's side. The young girl was around the age of 18. She was wearing light purple clothes and had a waist that could be embraced with a single arm. Her body was seductive in many aspects, with every detail perfect, without a single strand of excess flesh. Her appearance was not inferior to Ku Er's, but compared to Ku Er, she had a more mature charm. She had a pair of beautiful, clear eyes that seemed to be infused with boundless charm. With just a glance, she would be able to hook away the souls of men. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be dazed when he crossed eyes with the young girl. What a seductive beauty! Duan Ling Tian's heart jerked, his lower regions slightly burning. Since arriving in this world, he was always under the condition of abstinence, long since causing him to feel restless and intolerable. If only he was a little virgin in his previous life, but he just had to be a distinguished weapons specialist who couldn't be happy without women. Drawing in a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian slightly calmed the restlessness in his heart. At this moment, he knew who this young girl was. It was surely the inner court's top beauty, Li Fei. Duan Ling Tian noticed that there was a white-clothed youth behind Li Fei. The white-clothed youth was about the same age as Li Fei and had a face full of arrogance. From start to finish, he never once looked Duan Ling Tian in the eye. "Young master, this is big sister Li Fei." Ku Er introduced her with a light smile. "I've guessed. The inner court's top beauty lives up to her reputation." Duan Ling Tian nodded. When his gaze descended on Li Fei, it was a slightly burning gaze. Li Fei's beautiful eyebrows slightly knit. Duan Ling Tian's gaze was something she wasn't a stranger to. Whenever she walked out of the Li clan estate, she would notice this type of gaze everywhere. This type of gaze was also the gaze she hated the most. People who had this type of gaze seemed to wish they could pounce on her and strip her. Instantly, an icy coldness arose in her heart. She even thought he would be different. But she didn't imagine he would also be lecherous. "Ku Er, sure, we'll talk again when we're free." Li Fei's clear eyes that stared fixedly at Duan Ling Tian had an extra icy coldness, but when she looked at the two girls on the other side, the ice melted as if spring had come. As soon as she finished speaking, She walked away slowly with grace. Humph! Only at this moment did the white-clothed youth behind Li Fei have his gaze descend upon Duan Ling Tian with a sense of warning. Duan Ling Tian naturally ignored him. "Young master, look at you," frightening big sister Li Fei away. "She even wanted me to introduce you to her earlier." Ku'er's attractive red lips pouted, beautiful and lovable, causing others to wish they could go kiss and suck on them. Obviously, even she noticed the coquettish gaze Duan Ling Tian had when he looked at Li Fei earlier. Little sister Ku'er, big sister Li Fei was scared away by him? Li Shishir was slightly late in realization. When Ku'er dragged her to a side and whispered secretively, only then did she come to understand. Her gaze when she looked at Duan Ling Tian had an extra sense of hidden bitterness. But unfortunately, Duan Ling Tian's attention was not on her. "Her impression towards me doesn't seem so good." Looking at Li Fei's shadow from afar, the corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth held a slight smile. He had to admit that since coming to this world, Li Fei was the second girl that aroused his interest. The first was naturally Ku'er. However, Ku'er and Li Fei were complete opposites. If it was said that Ku'er was pure lily, then Li Fei would be a burning hot, red rose full of boundless temptation. The clan martial meet went on like a raging fire. At this time, Ku'er and Li Shishir both met core formation inner court disciples at the same time, being Li Zhong and Li Hu respectively. Once they went on the combat arena, they instantly admitted defeat. They weren't Duan Ling Tian after all. "I admit defeat." When the judge called upon Ku'er and Lian stood on the combat arena and waited for Ku'er with anticipation, but the young girl didn't even glance at him, directly admitting defeat below the combat arena. He looked from afar at the young girl holding the violet-clothed youth's hand, chatting and laughing but regarding him as nothing. Duan Ling Tian. Lian's face burnt with jealousy as he gnashed his teeth. The voice of the judges continued to rise and fall. "Li Zhong, Li Hu." The judge's voice sounded from the combat arena in front of Duan Ling Tian. "Li Hu." Duan Ling Tian's eyes flickered. He heard Li Shishir mention that Li Hu was one of the core formation inner court disciples. Duan Ling Tian quickly noticed that before Li Hu and Li Zhong entered the combat arena, the surrounding crowd had already surrounded them. With a quick thought, Duan Ling Tian understood. The battle between Li Zhong and Li Hu would be the first battle among the core formation disciples during this year's clan martial meet. Duan Ling Tian saw Li Hu. He was a strong-looking youth with a trace of cynicism between his brows. In the combat arena, "Li Zhong, just give up. You can't even defeat a body-tempering disciple. Could it be you still hope to defeat me?" Li Hu had a lazy expression, his manner of speaking containing a hint of mockery. "That will depend on your capability." Li Zhong laughed coldly. This Li Hu had to bring that up and touch a tender spot, completely enraging him. Crossing river on a reed. Li Zhong seemed to transform into a gust of wind as he pounced towards Li Hu. The two of them were quickly entangled in an intense battle. Accompanying their movements were the two ancient mammoth silhouettes above each of them, dashing out with them with an imposing manner that could pierce through the sky. They were equally matched. Finally, Li Zhong saw through a weak point of Li Hu, blasting Li Hu off the combat arena. Despicable! Li Hu gave vent to a torrent of insults, but just when he wanted to rush up the combat arena for another round with Li Zhong, the judge stopped him. "Li Hu, didn't you say I can't even defeat a body-tempering disciple? Now you can't even defeat I, who can't defeat a body-tempering disciple. How do you feel?" Li Zhong started laughing with an expression of exaltation after attaining his purpose. At this moment, many people of the surrounding crowd couldn't bear to hold their laughter. After a short while, Duan Ling Tian entered the combat arena once again. All his opponents admitted defeat one after the other, allowing him to fully enjoy the treatment of a core formation disciple. Until he met Li Hu. The moment Li Hu entered the combat arena, Duan Ling Tian could clearly notice his restless mood. "Looks like he probably wants to defeat me to wash away the shame from Li Zhong earlier." Duan Ling Tian guessed the reason in his heart. But even if Li Hu was defeated by Li Zhong due to carelessness, the difference in strength between the two of them really was little to none. Even Li Zhong wasn't a match for Duan Ling Tian, so Li Hu naturally was no exception. Duan Ling Tian quickly defeated Li Hu, continuing to maintain his dominating winning streak. Li Fei, Li Zhong. The judge's voice sounded behind him. Duan Ling Tian's gaze slightly twitched as he held Ku Er's hand and walked out in large strides. The battle between Li Fei and Li Zhong. Li Fei's figure seemed to have transformed into a flashing red rose, attracting infinite gazes and becoming the focus of attention. As a woman, being able to step into the core formation stage at the age of 18 was indeed rare. What caused Duan Ling Tian to be shocked was that Li Fei's strength was actually better than Li Zhong's. After 2 moves, Li Zhong was forced to admit defeat repeatedly. Interesting. The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth curled into a faint smile. He didn't expect this beautiful and seductive young girl would have such strength. Li Hu, Lian. Another battle between core formation disciples. What caused Duan Ling Tian to be astonished was that Lian defeated Li Hu in a single move. Of course, he knew that this was related to Li Hu's morale. From entering the combat arena to being defeated by Lian, he seemed to be somewhat distracted, obviously still unable to walk out of the shadow cast over him earlier. Li Zhong, Li Qing. The battle between core formation disciples continued. He is Li Qing? Looking at the white-clothed youth on the combat arena, Duan Ling Tian was startled. This guy, wasn't he the shameless lackey that followed behind Li Fei's ass? Then he noticed that Li Fei didn't seem to like paying attention to him. This Li Qing was obviously in a one-sided love affair. Li Zhong, just admit defeat. On the combat arena, Li Qing raised his head in an arrogant manner. He looked at Li Zhong in a condescending manner and spoke with a domineering tone. Li Zhong's expression turned grim and his eyes emitted a feeling of rage. Just when the origin energy in his legs were about to burst forth and he was prepared to attack. Abruptly, his pupils constricted and his body couldn't help but tremble as his origin energy completely dissipated. I admit defeat. Li Zhong originally had an imposing manner that could pierce the skies. Even when knowing he wasn't a match for Li Qing, he wasn't one bit afraid. But now, the 3 ancient mammoth silhouettes formed in the space above Li Qing, causing him to feel a sense of powerlessness. 3 ancient mammoth silhouettes. Li Qing had obviously stepped into the second level of the core formation stage. Sounds of drawing in cold air could be heard rising and falling from the combat arena's surroundings. Second level of the core formation stage. Li Qing had actually stepped into the second level of the core formation stage at the age of 18. Shocking. Even last year's clan martial meet champion, Li Feng, only recently broke through to the second level of the core formation stage. Li Qing's natural talent was higher than Li Feng's. In terms of strength, he obviously surpassed the Li Feng of last year. An 18-year-old core formation stage disciple. Even throughout the past 100 years of our Li clan's history, it could be counted with one hand. Yeah, Li Qing's natural talent is really shocking. As expected of the Grand Elder's grandson. A wave of exclamations sounded from the crowd. They were all shocked by the cultivation revealed by Li Qing. Second level of the core formation stage, huh? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. The clan martial meet was getting increasingly interesting. As the burning sun slowly dimmed, the clan martial meet was coming to an end. 2 figures flashed onto the combat arena. Lian, Li Fei. Lian had a slight advantage when the 2 battled, defeating Li Fei. Li Fei's beautiful eyebrows slightly knit, seeming to be slightly displeased. After a few more battles, Duan Ling Tian, Li Fei. The judge's voice sounded from afar. On the combat arena, we meet again. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled as his burning gaze sized up Li Fei's pretty appearance and hot body without restraint. Humph, pervert. Noticing Duan Ling Tian's gaze, Li Fei grunted and her beautiful face blushed. Outside the combat arena. Oh my god, what did I just see? Li Fei blushed. She actually blushed. F***K. It's really true. Could there be a relationship between her and Duan Ling Tian? Why else would she blush the moment they met? They certainly have some sort of relationship. I think so too. Duan Ling Tian really has good fortune in love affairs, already having a young girl whose appearance is not one bit inferior to Li Fei's beside him, and now even capturing Li Fei's heart. The crowd was in an uproar. Li Fei, the Li clan's famous beauty who had countless pursuers, but would rarely look a man in the eye, was now blushing towards a man. If it was another person using the same gaze Duan Ling Tian used to size her up, it would only incur her murderous rage gaze. But now, facing Duan Ling Tian, she actually blushed. Unbelievable. Lian arrived beside Li Qing and slowly said, "Li Qing, you pursued Li Fei for so long, but she was indifferent. Now she seems to be interested in that Duan Ling Tian." As he spoke, his burning gaze swept past the nearby young girl. But the young girl's gaze was now completely on the violet-clothed youth in the combat arena, completely not noticing him. His expression couldn't help but turn gloomy. Humph, just him. Is he even worthy to compete with me? Li Qing sneered disdainfully. His speech showed how he completely looked down upon Duan Ling Tian. That's for sure. You have broken through to the second level of the core formation stage now. So in terms of strength, Duan Ling Tian cannot catch up to you no matter how hard he tries. But you should still be careful. He is skilled in sweet-talking women. Even Li Shi seems to have her eyes on him, Lian said exaggeratively. Lian. Suddenly, Li Qing looked at Lian with a cold and indifferent gaze. Huh. Lian was dazed momentarily. If I'm not wrong, you're interested in the young girl beside Duan Ling Tian, right? What? You're not confident to deal with him, so you want to use me. Li Qing saw through Lian's thoughts. Just him? Don't joke around. It just depends on whether he meets you or me first. If he meets me first, I'll surely make him not have the strength to continue another battle, and you can save some strength too. Lian didn't feel ashamed about being seen through. Same here. If he meets me first, he'll surely have no chance to battle with you after me. Li Qing's gaze descended on the violet-clothed youth in the combat arena, killing intent flashing. On the combat arena, Li Fei naturally was able to hear the crowd's discussion, so she was ashamed and angry. Duan Ling Tian. When Li Fei noticed that Duan Ling Tian was still using that sort of gaze to size her up, her clear eyes stared at him fixedly as she gnashed her teeth and let out a shout of shame and rage. Huh? Is something the matter? Duan Ling Tian came back to his senses and was dazed. This scene drew in a wave of cordial laughter. Duan Ling Tian, if you're unwilling to destroy a flower, then admit defeat, someone from the surrounding crowd said. Admit defeat? Little Fei, do you need me to admit defeat? Duan Ling Tian smiled as he gazed at Li Fei. Little Fei? For a moment, the people present looked at the two of them with dubious gazes. Duan Ling Tian. Li Qing's gaze turned gloomy and cold, and the origin energy in his body became restless as if ready to swallow him up. On the combat arena, Li Fei couldn't stand it any longer, so she attacked in rage. She never would have thought that Duan Ling Tian would be such a scoundrel, actually calling her nickname. Of course, she was curious in her heart about how could Duan Ling Tian have known her nickname. Wanderer's Flash. Li Fei's seductive and gracefully slender figure moved, as if transforming into a bolt of lightning, going straight for Duan Ling Tian. Above her, two ancient mammoth silhouettes dashed in and followed. Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed. Li Fei's speed was even slightly faster than Li Zhong's. Quickly, Li Fei noticed. She had already gotten close to Duan Ling Tian, but he actually didn't have any intention of dodging or attacking. Looking down on me, huh? A sense of shame and anger arose in Li Fei's heart. Starfall fist. Under her violet clothes, her fist swung out like a falling star, descending towards Duan Ling Tian's chest. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flickered. His fleshly body instantly exerted a strength of 28,000 pounds. Greater teleportation. He circulated his defensive martial skill in preparation to take Li Fei's punch head-on. Bang! Li Fei's fist slammed onto Duan Ling Tian's chest in the next moment. Li Fei was dazed. Duan Ling Tian actually really didn't dodge, allowing her fist to slam into him with its full force. She felt slightly regretful. Was her attack too heavy-handed? The strength of two ancient mammoths. Suddenly, Li Fei heard a wave of shouts of alarm enter her ears. Before Li Fei could even react, she felt like the fist which she slammed on Duanling Tian's chest actually wasn't even able to break through his defensive qi barrier. How is this possible? Li Fei's beautiful eyes constricted as her charming and beautiful face was filled with an expression of disbelief. She unconsciously raised her head and clearly saw. In the space above Duanling Tian, two ancient mammoth silhouettes were indistinctly visible. Ninth level of the body tempering stage, the strength of two ancient mammoths? Her beautiful and charming face had only just emitted an expression of shock when, in the next moment, she felt a boundless force reflect back from Duanling Tian's defensive qi barrier, flowing into her fist. This force was extremely familiar to her. It was precisely the force exerted by her starfall fist. Retreat. Duanling Tian frowned. He realized that he might have taken things too far, so his body jerked and he hurriedly retreated. Li Fei, on the other hand, wasn't able to retreat in time. Although Duanling Tian restrained most of the reflective force from his greater teleportation, there was still a small amount that ignored the defensive qi barrier on Li Fei's body, going through her right arm before blasting onto her body. Immediately, Li Fei's face turned deathly pale. She flew out like an arrow leaving the bowstring, descending towards a corner of the combat arena. Not good. Suddenly, a startled shout sounded from outside the combat arena. Duanling Tian glanced forward, and his expression instantly turned grim. Presently, the deathly pale Li Fei was powerless, unable to move her body in the air. And the head of her dropping body was on a collision course towards the pillar at the corner of the combat arena. The square pillar's sharp edge was directly facing Li Fei's head. If Li Fei were to collide with it, it would lead to unimaginable consequences. On the high platform, Patriarch Li Ao's expression turned grim as he prepared to rescue Li Fei. But he was quickly dazed on the spot again. At this moment, it wasn't only him. Even everyone who was spectating Duanling Tian and Li Fei's battle were all dumbstruck. At this moment, they seemed to have even forgotten about Li Fei, who was in imminent danger. On the combat arena, the youth that seemed to transform in a spirit serpent as he flashed out, revealing a shocking speed. In the air above him, three ancient mammoth silhouettes abruptly formed. They were exceptionally dazzling. No. Impossible. It's impossible. Seeing this scene from afar, Lian shook his head in disbelief. He wasn't willing to believe this to be real. On the combat arena, noticing Li Fei was in imminent danger, Duanling Tian couldn't bother about anything else, so he exploded forth with his full unrestrained strength, revealed his maximum speed, and flew towards Li Fei. But when he was halfway, he noticed that his speed was slightly slower than required. No. Instantly, Duanling Tian's eyes turned a crimson red, and he let out an unwilling roar. On the high platform, Patriarch Li Ao and the elders noticed this, so their expressions distorted. But at this time, even they wouldn't be able to reach Li Fei in time. The distance was too great. Li Fei, who was blasted flying, had a trace of despair flash in her eyes. Am I going to die? Suddenly, she saw the violet-clothed youth who had a ferocious expression as he desperately flew towards her. At this moment, the youth's insanity caused a sense of warmth to arise in her heart. So it turned out that he wasn't really that detestable. Ah! Duanling Tian, who was flashing at high speed, abruptly shouted. The muscles in his entire body bulged and his veins started moving about. Bang! He stomped on the ground once more to gain momentum. At the instant his legs touched the ground, Duanling Tian's mind flashed with a scene. In the scene, a white and a black little python were agilely flying about like bolts of lightning flashing by. Vaguely, Duanling Tian seemed to have caught on to something. At the instant his body dropped on the ground to gain momentum, his spirit serpent movement technique underwent a change due to being forced by circumstances. Mastery stage. Whoosh. Duanling Tian's speed explosively increased, flashing by and arriving beside the pillar before Li Fei. But Li Fei's head's distance to the corner of the pillar was extremely close, without much empty space in between. Duan Ling Tian grit his teeth and directly forced his body straight in between her and the pillar. Bang! Before he could even circulate his defensive martial skill, Li Fei's body had already descended, smashing into Duan Ling Tian's embrace. The piercing pain coming from his back caused Duan Ling Tian's face to become deathly pale, and he grunted, "Are you okay?" Li Fei's head smashed onto Duan Ling Tian's chest. She was without a scratch. She lifted her head and looked at Duan Ling Tian with concern. Duan Ling Tian's desperate measures to save her were still vivid in her mind. He had deeply moved her. "Big sister, can you get down off me first? You're so heavy, you should lose some weight." Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly. Then the piercing pain coming from his back caused his cold sweat to pour out. Luckily, he had cultivated to the 9th level of the body tempering stage, so his flesh and bones had undergone a metamorphosis that was far above an ordinary 9th level body tempering martial artist's, so he didn't really injure his muscles and bones. Li Fei's face blushed. She was puzzled in her heart. Was she really that heavy? Under the dubious gazes casted over, Li Fei got off Duan Ling Tian. Are your injuries serious?" She extended her hand and helping Duan Ling Tian up. When she noticed that the flesh on Duan Ling Tian's back was ripped open, her expression instantly turned pale. "Don't worry, I won't die." Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief, shakily standing up. Li Fei was silent for a moment before she said, "Thank you. Can I get something more realistic?" Duan Ling Tian slyly smiled. "What do you want?" Li Fei was dazed. "How about you pledge yourself to me?" Duan Ling Tian's gaze burned once more. "Pay!" Li Fei blushed. It was as if her face would drip blood at any moment. Cough, cough. The judge's light cough sounded, destroying the romantic atmosphere around the two of them. "The two of you, do you still want to continue?" Obviously, the judge couldn't bear to continue watching the two lovers tease and flirt with each other. "No need, I admit defeat." Li Fei shook her head, following which she supported Duan Ling Tian down the combat arena in a careful manner, afraid that she might affect Duan Ling Tian's injuries. "Young master, are you all right?" Ku Er and Li Shi greeted him with an expression filled with worry. For a moment, Duan Ling Tian was surrounded by 3 girls. Innumerable gazes of jealousy and envy shot at Duan Ling Tian from all around. Every man that was present wished the one injured wasn't Duan Ling Tian, but themselves instead. "Fei Fei, are you all right?" Li Qing arrived beside Li Fei as he asked concernedly. "Li Qing, how many times have I told you to call me Li Fei?" Li Fei frowned as she was slightly displeased. She concentrated on working together with Ku Er to help Duan Ling Tian dress the wound on his back. From start to finish, she didn't even glance at Li Qing. Li Qing's expression turned gloomy as he took a deep breath. "Duan Ling Tian, I hope this small injury won't cause you to forfeit your battles later on." Li Qing's gloomy gaze descended upon Duan Ling Tian. "Don't worry, my target is becoming the champion." Duan Ling Tian looked Li Qing in the eye without a shred of fear. "Humph." Li Qing turned around and left after snorting coldly. He was afraid that if he stayed there for a moment longer, he would be unable to restrain himself from trying to kill Duan Ling Tian. After the danger to Li Fei was resolved, the attention of the people present moved towards Duan Ling Tian. Today, Duan Ling Tian gave them an immense shock. Firstly, defeating a core formation inner court disciple with a cultivation of the 9th level of the body tempering stage. Afterwards, he even drew upon the forces of heaven and earth and formed 2 ancient mammoth silhouettes. Possessing the strength of 2 ancient mammoths at the 9th level of the body tempering stage. This was something that they had never heard of before. But even this wasn't the end of it. In the end, to save Li Fei from danger, Duan Ling Tian exploded forth once more, even causing the 3rd ancient mammoth silhouette to appear. Since the beginning, they hadn't once seen Duan Ling Tian use origin energy. In other words, Duan Ling at the 9th level of the body tempering stage possessed the strength of 3 ancient mammoths. If they didn't see it with their own 2 eyes, They wouldn't believe that what they saw was real even if someone beat them to death. No wonder Duanling Tian proclaimed he would compete for the champion prize. It turned out that he was so strong. Yeah, although Li Qing is at the second level of the core formation stage, Li Qing at full strength is only comparable to the strength of 3 ancient mammoths. Based on this fact, Duanling Tian isn't one bit inferior to him. Moreover, Duanling Tian's martial skills are all extremely formidable, so defeating Li Qing isn't impossible. I believe in Duanling Tian as well. Among the crowd's whispers and discussions, many people looked favorably towards Duanling Tian. These words in Li Qing's ears were exceptionally piercing. His expression turned gloomy as killing intent flashed in his eyes, clenching his fist tightly until the veins in his fist jumped about. Duanling Tian. Even though Duanling Tian possessing the strength of 3 ancient mammoths caused him to be shocked, he still looked down upon Duanling Tian. As far as he was concerned, Duanling Tian was only a little kid in the end, and having this sort of strength would undoubtedly be due to some sort of fortuitous gain. He was only just a lucky branch family disciple. How could he be a match for him, this genius of the Li clan? I didn't expect that this Duanling Tian had concealed such strength. Being defeated by him isn't an injustice anymore. Li Zhong had a complicated gaze as he sighed, following which he looked towards the dumbstruck Li Xiao beside him. Behave yourself properly from now on. Don't go offend him anymore. He isn't someone we can offend, Li Zhong warned. Yes. Li Xiao bitterly laughed as he nodded. I didn't expect his true strength to be so formidable. To think I even took him for an opponent at the beginning. As Li Yuan looked at the violet-clothed youth that was far away, his mood couldn't calm down for a long time. He originally thought that cultivating his unfettered steps to the mastery stage would be enough to defeat Duanling Tian. But now it would seem that this was just a joke. On the high platform, I didn't expect that this Duanling Tian was capable of utilizing the strength of 3 ancient mammoths by relying upon a cultivation of the 9th level of the body tempering stage. Patriarch Li Ao's expression was slightly serious. Duanling Tian's real strength was completely exceeding his expectations. According to common sense, he would surely have gotten some sort of fortuitous gain, obtaining some type of natural treasure which allowed him to gain his abnormal strength. An elderly person on the side guessed. I think so too. The white-eyebrowed old man nodded in agreement. The clan martial meet continued. Li Qing, Li Fei. The judge's voice sounded out. For a moment, everyone's gazes descended upon Li Fei, who was helping Duanling Tian tend to his injuries. I admit defeat. Li Fei didn't even raise her head, continuing to carefully tend to Duanling Tian's injury. Li Qing is victorious. Although Li Qing won, he didn't have a trace of pleasure on his face. His gloomy gaze never left the nearby violet-clothed youth. Not far away. I hope Duanling Tian meets with Li Qing first. Lian's heart was restless and worried. When Duanling Tian made his move and drew upon the forces of heaven and earth to form 3 ancient mammoth silhouettes, he felt a wave of powerlessness in his heart. He knew his own limitations. Duanling Tian wasn't someone he could deal with. Brethren, this Duanling Tian really deeply concealed his strength. The green-clothed youth beside him shuddered at the thought about when he nearly attacked Duanling Tian the other day. Thinking about it now, cold sweat poured out of his forehead. Who? After Ku'er and Li Fei had tended to his wounds, Duanling Tian consumed a grade 9 gold injury pill, and his injuries finally started recovering. After all, he didn't injure any muscles or bones, so he quickly recovered. His injuries had healed to a degree that wouldn't affect his following battles. Duanling Tian, Lian. The judge's voice sounded at this moment. Lian's face instantly turned slightly grim. What he was worried the most about really happened. Be careful. When Duanling Tian was about to go up to the combat arena, Li Fei lightly reminded him. Looks like getting injured like this was worth it. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to myself. I still have lots of things I haven't done. Duanling Tian glanced at Li Fei with a burning gaze. Only when she gave him a disdainful glance did he finally go up to the combat arena. Li Shi held Ku'er's hand and dragged her to a corner. avoiding Li Fei before asking, in a low voice, "Ku air, this Duan Ling Tian is a philanderer. Aren't you angry?" Big sister sure, as long a corner of the young master's heart is mine, I'll be satisfied. Ku air lightly smiled. Hearing what she said, Li sure was speechless. Where did this Duan Ling Tian get such charm to cause Ku air to be so committed towards him? On the combat arena, Duan Ling Tian looked at Leon with a tranquil expression. Leon took a deep breath. His mind was filled with the scene of Duan Ling Tian drawing upon the forces of heaven and earth to form three ancient mammoth silhouettes. Duan Ling Tian's strength was comparable to someone at the second level of the core formation stage. As for martial skills cultivation stage, he was not one bit inferior to him. I admit defeat. Although unwilling, Leon still made this decision. If they were to battle, he didn't know how Duan Ling Tian would react towards him. If he purposefully attacked ruthlessly, it wouldn't be worth it. He didn't dare to take this gamble. Immediately, the surroundings sounded with loud booing. Lian's strength was publicly acknowledged as number 2 in the entire Li clan younger generation. But now, he didn't even have the courage to battle Duan Ling Tian. Tupu **** Y. Noticing the disdainful gazes from the surroundings, Leon took a deep breath and suppressed the shame and anger in his heart. His eyes that were filled with hate and ice coldness swept past Duan Ling Tian. Leon, Li Qing. After a few more battles, the judge's voice sounded once more. This time, Leon directly admitted defeat once again. Li Qing was victorious. As time went by, night soon fell. Li Qing, Duan Ling Tian. The most brilliant moment that everyone looked forward to had finally arrived. Two youths who possessed the strength of three ancient mammoths were going to lift this year's clan martial meet to its peak climax. His white clothes drifting in the wind, Li Qing was already waiting on the combat arena. His condescending gaze descended upon Duan Ling Tian, full of disdain and contempt. This Li Qing is really arrogant. Duan Ling Tian's expression was slightly gloomy. But just when he was about to walk out and enter the combat arena, Duan Ling Tian. A condensed voice entered his ears. But he quickly noticed that the surrounding people seemed to not notice the voice. In other words, only he could hear this voice. Through Rebirth Martial Emperors, Duan Ling Tian found out. Martial artists with a cultivation level above the 7th level of the origin core stage were all capable of condensing their origin energy into sound before condensing the sound into a line. The owner of the voice was none other than the Li clan's patriarch, Liao. Duan Ling Tian slightly lifted his head to look at Liao, who was on the high platform. He had a puzzled expression, wondering what Liao wanted. Liao was also looking at him. Duan Ling Tian, this battle, I hope you can admit defeat? What Liao said caused Duan Ling Tian to frown. Admit defeat? Impossible. His target was the champion's prize, the 350-year-old Bloodlingji. Asking him to let go of it now was something he couldn't do. I know asking this will make it difficult on you, but I promise you, I will privately compensate the champion's prizes to you. How about it? Liao's voice transmitted into his ears once more.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.